this adorable young boy who must engage in daily affectionate moments with his mother. But within his bones the essence of a great demon king sealed for 60,000 years. Jaime was originally the most powerful dark sorcerer of the mythical age, yet he suffered betrayal from the 12 celestial gods, who combined their forces to seal him for precisely 666,666 years. He emerged from a crack in the temporal barrier. Reborn as the eldest son of an earl's family, his father ranks among the Empire's 5 great sword saints, while his mother stands as the sole daughter of the prestigious Bell family. Unfortunately, one parent displays obsessive devotion to his wife, while the other shows excessive attachment to their child. Though Jaime possesses merely a child's body, his mind carries the wisdom of an ancient being who has lived 60,000 years. Beyond maintaining the facade of an obedient child each day, he must also endure his mother's enthusiastic embraces, while such circumstances leave him mentally exhausted. He can only suppress his frustration and secretly accumulate power for his eventual revenge against the 12 celestial gods. In truth, were it not for his mission of vengeance, Jaime would genuinely cherish this family. Upon learning of Jaime's interest in magic, his father arranged for the Empire's foremost 8th-tier Grand Mage to serve as his instructor. However, before his father could make proper introductions, Jaime encountered the man in the hallway. Upon seeing the white-bearded elder, Jaime immediately sensed the tremendous magical power emanating from within the man. Similarly, the white-bearded elder recognized Jaime as an exceptional magical prodigy. While the elder was observing Jaime took the initiative to manifest magical energy in his hand. He had mistaken the silent old man for a burglar who had illegally entered the residence. Witnessing the magical power in Jaime's hand, the elder developed an interest in testing the boy's capabilities. This action greatly irritated Jaime. As a dark sorcerer who nearly caused gods to fall, he found it audacious that someone would dare to probe his abilities. With that declaration, he launched a purple magical attack swiftly toward his opponent. Unfortunately, the attack proved ineffective, considering his opponent was an 8th-tier Grand Mage while his own level barely reached the 3rd tier. However, this single strike excited the elder tremendously, wondering if this was truly magic that a child could unleash. He then released magic directed at Jaime. Yet Jaime saw through the elder's deception, recognizing that this magical attack was not actually aimed at him. This composed demeanor shocked the elder once again. In the next moment, a sword beam suddenly descended, shattering the elder's magic, with Jaime's father Linmore delivering the strike. "Your jest has gone too far." Seeing his father arrive, Jaime immediately adopted a pitiful expression. Witnessing this scene, the elder laughed heartily. Indeed, quite the little trickster. The two subsequently moved to the living room, where the father reproached Linmore for his excessive force. "You were brought here to teach the child, yet you nearly caused me to lose my lineage." Linmore responded with a smile. "You, as a father, truly do not understand your own son. Moreover, I am unqualified to serve as his instructor, because earlier your son saw through all of my magic." These words left the father completely stunned. Seeing the man's silence, Linmore continued his explanation. "Your son has achieved 3rd-tier mage level through self-study alone. Without physical limitations, he would already surpass 4th level. He is a genius, therefore he requires no teacher. You should simply provide him with mental and material support, and perhaps he could develop into the legendary 9th-tier Grand Mage." Jaime returned to his room, preparing to remove his clothes for a restful sleep, only to discover the elder sitting upon his bed. This startled Jaime so severely that he collapsed to the floor. "You perverted old man, surely you do not harbor some peculiar inclinations." Linmore was amused by Jaime's reaction and laughed heartily. "You were quite arrogant earlier, so why are you frightened now? Come, accept this gift." Jaime received the magical tome with some bewilderment, wondering if the man desired his body. Linmore explained to Jaime, "Your current breathing technique has become obsolete. This magical book contains my original breathing method. Consider it a greeting gift, as I hold great expectations for you." With those words, the elder vanished from the room in a flash. Magical breathing involves oral respiration through the lungs, thereby absorbing and accumulating magical power in the heart. While it represents the most effective method, its limitation lies in the restricted breathing capacity. Jaime examined the magical book with skepticism, yet merely glancing at it nearly caused him to explode with astonishment. The book's contents described fragmenting magical power into small pieces for absorption through the skin, which, though extremely efficient, required an exceptionally high entry threshold. However, as the most powerful dark sorcerer of the mythical age, such challenges posed no difficulty for him. Through careful study, Jaime discovered flaws in the elder's breathing technique. Specifically, the magical power required extremely fine fragmentation, and could only be performed in fixed locations while being cut into specific shapes. Jaime's current abilities were insufficient for such precision. Yet his demon servant Blake, bound by a soul contract from his previous life, could resolve this problem. Thus, Jaime began cultivation using the modified breathing technique. The following morning, when his father observed Jaime practicing alone in his room, the man stood frozen in place. Magical power continuously swirled throughout the room. "What exactly did Linmore give my son? However, considering I come from a swordsman family yet produced a mage child, clearly not a single hair color is innocent." After 2.5 days of practice, Jaime finally achieved a breakthrough to the peak of 4th tier, using his newly acquired breathing technique. He concealed his demon servant and prepared to share this good news with his father. However, at that moment his father was receiving a visitor with narrowed eyes. The visitor claimed to be a devotee of the Zenith religious order, seeking to establish missionary work within the father's territory. Though the father did not directly refuse, he implied to the visitor, establishing roots in my domain is acceptable, but attempting to brainwash my people is absolutely forbidden. Seeing the situation, the narrow-eyed man ceased his persistence and immediately claimed his laundry needed collection before departing. Shortly after the visitor's departure, Jamie emerged from behind the wall. He had heard the entire conversation clearly. Zenith was indeed one of the 12 principal gods who had conspired against him. Now his followers had arrived on Jamie's territory. It appeared tonight would require thorough investigation to cleanse these filthy individuals. Jamie finally endured until nightfall. To investigate matters concerning Zenith, he could not wait a moment longer. At that time, in a small alley, 2 minions were discussing escape plans. They belonged to the criminal organization Power Tyrant, specializing in human trafficking. However, their current operation site was the territory of Earl Wilton, namely Jamie's father's domain. Both men understood that capture would result in terrible consequences. Yet the rules of the Dark Street prevented them from becoming traitors. While they were troubled by this matter, Jamie emerged from around the corner, seeing their activities exposed. The small-time criminals panicked. Without hesitation, they moved to silence him permanently. However, Jamie merely raised his finger lightly and controlled both men's minds. He had expected a criminal organization might possess information about Zenith. Yet aside from human trafficking, no other useful intelligence emerged from his questioning. Jamie chose not to waste time. Instead, he brainwashed both men and sent them to confess to his father. However, before he could exit the alley, both men were struck back by a magical attack. Looking up, he saw a white-haired man had launched the assault. Jamie became somewhat irritated. I assigned tasks to these fellows, yet you dare treat them thus. He then released dark magic to preserve both men's lives. Yet seeing this, the white-haired man ordered his subordinates to drag the two back, intending to kill them once more. This completely enraged Jamie. In the next moment, the white-haired man pierced Jamie's body with flame magic. Looking at the charred corpse on the ground, the white-haired man displayed excitement, yet his subordinate said stupidly, "Boss, why did you kill Finn?" The white-haired man was bewildered, thinking his subordinate was speaking nonsense. In the next second, Jamie materialized beside him, killing a subordinate. Is that amusing? The white-haired man looked terrified, as if he had seen a ghost. He immediately unleashed his strongest magic against Jamie. Yet how could a mere third-tier mage match Jamie's abilities? From the beginning, Jamie had used illusion magic to control everyone. For him, annihilating these minions required merely a gesture. After eliminating the white-haired man, Jamie did not forget to make productive use. He absorbed all the magical power from the man's body while it remained warm. At this point, only the original 2 minions remained alive in the alley. Though he had just infused them with magical power to barely save their lives, they would still die given time. After consideration, Jamie decided to employ necromancy on both men. After all, he had many tasks requiring their services. Necromancy, this dark magic from the mythical age, controls others by animating corpses. While it can resurrect the dead, the result differs significantly. Bodies raised through necromancy no longer exist as living beings but as the living dead. With Blake's assistance, Jamie successfully transformed both men into living dead. He named them Yellow and Purple. The only imperfection was the black magical aura emanating from their bodies. Could this be due to my incomplete power recovery, causing the spell to fail? Such living dead are completely unusable. Forget infiltrating Zenith's church. They would be detected even entering a cafeteria. Just as Jamie prepared to destroy both men on the spot, Blake suddenly flew to Yellow's head, then spread his wings and absorbed all the black magical aura into his body. This magical power expanded Blake's body by 2 full sizes. Jamie then awakened both men and explained the entire situation to them. Seeing the black magical power emanating from Jamie, Yellow immediately became frightened. Yet the rebellious Purple still contemplated resistance and stubbornly declared, "Though I cannot determine if you are a demon king, in our eyes you are inhuman, so why should we submit to your control?" Jamie was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. "Oh, you retain consciousness and dare resist me? It seems I have shortcomings as a master. However, if you dare speak to me this way again, believe it or not, I will eliminate you." After receiving a kick, Purple lost all defiance. At this moment, they both fully understood that from today forward, their lives belonged to the young man before them. After assigning Yellow and Purple the task of gathering intelligence on Zenith, Jamie returned home to rest. Having subordinates is indeed convenient. Soon, Yellow and Purple made progress. They had captured a mid-level executive from the Power Tyrant organization, intending to extract the location of Power Tyrant's leader from him. After all, Power Tyrant ranked among the top criminal organizations, so their leader would naturally possess information about the Zenith religious group. Jamie had originally intended to delegate responsibility, merely listening to final results. Unexpectedly, his mother informed him that the date for the grand ball hosted by Count Simon and his father was approaching. Their entire family would need to attend. Therefore, Jamie immediately summoned Yellow and Purple that evening. Purple reported to him, "The Zenith religious order was recently established. We have not yet discovered relevant information. However, we captured an executive from the Power Tyrant organization who knows about the white-haired man's attempt to assassinate us, so I believe he is definitely an informed party." Unfortunately, despite continuous interrogation for 2.5 days, we could not extract any useful intelligence. Hearing this, Jamie walked directly over. "Leave the rest to me." With those words, terrifying black magical aura filled the entire room. Looking at the man kowtowing frantically, Jamie gently placed his hand on the man's head. "Do not fear, child. You need only run an errand for me. Now go to the Earl's mansion and report your organization's activities, do you understand?" The man who received these instructions moved like a walking corpse, trembling as he departed. After completing this task, Jamie instructed Yellow and Purple to leave the town temporarily and hide, stating that he would be away for several days and they should behave themselves. Just as Jamie was leaving the warehouse, Purple immediately pursued him. He shouted excitedly, "What exactly have we become? We are stronger than when we were alive. Have we become high-level living dead?" This series of questions left Jamie completely confused. This is truly unprecedented. I am encountering this situation for the first time. Ordinary living dead lose their rationality and become monsters. Yet you two are anomalies, not only retaining human consciousness, but also receiving physical enhancement. Jamie smiled and said, "You are zombies with slightly greater strength than ordinary people, but if you perform well, you might become high-level zombies." Hearing Jamie's words, both men became highly motivated. Meanwhile, the Earl's mansion erupted in chaos. Due to the man's report, Jamie's father learned of Power Tyrant Organization's crimes. In his fury, he immediately executed the informant. Even the ball had to be postponed until after he finished handling this matter. Therefore, the following day, only Jamie, his sister, and their mother attended Count Simon's ball. Count Simon, similar in age to Jamie's father, was a 7th-level Grand Mage, and also one of the 2 most powerful Eastern noble lords alongside Jamie's father. He bore the title Red Lotus Mage, reportedly capable of instantly claiming thousands of lives. Hearing his mother's words, Jamie fell into contemplation. Whether Red Lotus Mage or 7th-tier Mage, neither particularly interested him. However, attack power capable of claiming thousands of lives in a single strike was indeed intriguing. While such capability was possible, it was not easily achieved. Jamie was curious about this magic. It appeared this trip would require a proper conversation with Count Simon. At the Earl's ball, the moment Simon made his entrance, Jamie was stunned. This was absolutely not a 7th-tier mage. The magical power emanating from him nearly matched Earl Linmore's, perhaps even exceeding it. Red Lotus Mage truly lives up to his reputation. Yet such a remarkable man had produced 2 incompetent sons, weak in ability and prone to grandiosity. They spent their days contemplating how to please their father and gain more attention. During the banquet, Simon's eldest son Alp mentioned Jamie, stating that as the future heir of Wilton, he should better understand the boy's father. Rather than discourage his enthusiasm, he encouraged closer relations between them. Alp agreed readily in words, yet inwardly plotted how to make Jamie kneel at his feet. Little did he know his evil thoughts were observed entirely by his brother Reynold. After afternoon tea, Jamie grew weary of the noisy environment, so he ventured alone to the rear garden. Suddenly a voice came from behind him. Jamie's danger sense activated intensely. He condensed a magical light cone in his hand and pointed it sharply behind him. Upon turning, he discovered the source was merely a young girl. He immediately withdrew his magic. The young girl was drenched in cold sweat from the earlier action. She angrily rebuked, "Why attack indiscriminately? You should know that treating a lady in such manner is extremely impolite." Jamie responded with exasperation, "Quickly state your name and explain how you appeared behind me." Unexpectedly, the girl became defiant at this moment, refusing to tell Jamie. However, Jamie, being emotionally dense, would not indulge her. He directly fired an air bullet at her feet and declared, "Speak immediately if you wish to live." Hearing Jamie's threatening words, the girl immediately panicked. She hastily revealed her identity. She was Ash Balai, second daughter of Viscount Balai's family and also an elf mage. Jamie was momentarily stunned upon hearing this. Elf mages are practitioners who form contracts with elves born from nature. Generally, elf mages begin cultivating affinity after age 10, yet she had already contracted with a wind elf at an age similar to his own. She is also a rare genius. With proper training, she might contract with the Elf King. After clarifying her identity, Jamie began his self-introduction, simultaneously informing her that Viscount Balai was his father's subordinate. This revelation left Ash stunned. Realizing this was a contest of family connections, Jamie then wandered alone. Yet regardless of where he went, Ash persistently followed behind him, which irritated him somewhat. "Why are you following me around?" Ash anxiously expressed that she simply wanted to befriend him. Hearing this, Jamie froze in place. "Do I need friends?" However, he immediately rationalized. He had lived tens of thousands of years, while she was merely a child, so such thoughts were normal. Yet these matters are irrelevant to me. Emotions make people vulnerable once they develop. My past self would not have suffered such defeat if I had not failed to suppress such feelings. Leaving the tearful Ash behind, Jamie intended to return to the banquet hall. Just then, a discordant voice reached him. Looking over, he saw the self-destructive Alp. Upon meeting, the minion immediately launched into mockery, his words filled with contempt. Facing such individuals, Jamie simply employed a silencing spell, causing both men to close their mouths and declared, "Leave immediately if you have no business." Alp became instantly furious. "Do you not know who my father is? Call me Big Brother and obey accordingly." He then produced a magical orb from within his robes. As the orb shattered, an illusory magical barrier enveloped everyone present. Hee hee, now no adults can observe, so do not grab my trouser legs and beg for mercy later. Surveying the three men before him, Jamie revealed a playful smile, somewhat interesting. This saves me trouble. Before Alp could comprehend his meaning, dark magic instantly descended upon the three men. Under this spell, blood flowed from every orifice. Heh, without closing the barrier, everyone would witness your agonizing struggles. Thus, Jamie taught the three men a lesson. Yet Alp remained defiant. Upon returning to the banquet hall, he prepared to seek reinforcements. At that moment, his brother Reynold stopped him, declaring, "When my brother suffers injustice, how could I, as his brother, stand idly by?" He then handed his brother a crimson object. Seeing this item, Alp was immediately startled, wondering where such a dangerous object originated. Yet upon reflection, does the source matter? What matters is eliminating this boy first. Meanwhile, Wilton, having resolved the Power Tyrant organization, rushed through the night to arrive. Count Simon personally welcomed him. After exchanging pleasantries, they proceeded to the reception room. Simon then mentioned Wilton's son Jamie, offering extremely high praise. Wilton chuckled, requesting less formality and noting that Simon's son was also exceptional. When discussing his own son, Simon immediately showed disappointment. He then began praising Jamie again. "Your son amazes me, even astounds me. He is absolutely the most talented mage in history. Such a once-in-a-millennium genius will reach great heights, challenging to become the legendary 9th tier. Though his natural talent makes me somewhat envious, I also wish to witness the divine capabilities of a supreme-level mage. Humans are too weak, though we have established remarkable civilization. Compared to dragons and high elves, human mages remain inferior. However, if a 9th tier mage were born, perhaps even magic dragons would not dare underestimate us." At Count Simon's ball, Jamie was wondering when this gathering would conclude, when Ash found him once again. This time she even brought her sister, which darkened Jamie's expression completely. He immediately rose to leave, yet at that moment, Ash's sister Rebecca suddenly approached. Upon seeing her, Jamie froze instantly. Ash assumed Jamie was stunned by her sister's beauty. Little did she know, her sister was the woman Jamie had loved throughout his lifetime, who had sacrificed herself to the gods for his sake. Why would she appear before me in her childhood form? Just as Jamie puzzled over this matter, Alp's troublemaking squad appeared once again. As he activated the red artifact obtained from his brother, a surge of intense flames rushed toward Jamie. Witnessing this scene, Jamie became instantly enraged. "Do not interfere with me." As his words concluded, the flames vanished completely. Alp stood dumbfounded. "This is the 6th level flame magic artifact Phoenix Egg, personally crafted by my father. Why could he deflect it?" Before he could comprehend this, Jamie had already formed murderous intent. Ice magic instantly enveloped Alp. As a 2nd-tier mage, he had no capacity for resistance, and death was merely a matter of time. Yet at this critical moment, Jamie's father suddenly intervened to stop him. They had observed everything from the moment they entered the ballroom, simply not expecting events to develop so rapidly. While Wilton worried, Simon appeared extremely excited. "Though my son has limited ability, if he could have unleashed half of Phoenix Egg's power earlier, the entire ballroom would have been reduced to ashes. I did not expect Jamie to instantly shatter this magic, truly worthy of being the genius most likely to become a 9th-tier mage." At that moment, both mothers began arguing over this incident. Just as the two prepared to engage in conflict, Simon silenced his wife, while simultaneously apologizing to the attending nobles, declaring the ball concluded. After everyone departed, his wife emotionally questioned her husband, "Why did you not defend her son?" Before she could finish speaking, her husband's icy gaze silenced her. Returning to his room before Simon could interrogate him, Alp betrayed his brother. Looking at his 2 incompetent sons, Simon completely lost faith in them. "Do you know why I show no concern for you? Though you carry my bloodline, you lack the talent I desire. From today forward, I will no longer interfere with you. However, you must bear responsibility for your mistakes. When dawn breaks tomorrow, you will apologize to Jamie." Hearing his father's commanding words, Alp felt overwhelmed. Yet his brother beside him stood motionless. His father's words continued echoing in his mind. "Just wait and see. I will prove the worth of bloodline to you." Since encountering his lover from 60,000 years ago at the ball, Jamie's mind had been in turmoil. Was this fate's arrangement, the god's plan, or merely his own delusion? After much consideration, Jamie decided to meet her once more. The following morning, Jamie encountered Rebecca in the rear garden. What surprised him was that her contracted partner was actually the Elf King. Seeing Jamie's appearance, Rebecca warmly greeted him. Through their conversation, Jamie also voiced his earlier confusion. Rebecca explained to him, "Actually, the Balai family has contracted with Wind Elves for generations. Originally, I was also to contract with Wind Elves, yet they declared us incompatible. The next day, a Water Elf found me and demanded immediate contract formation, not even allowing time for consultation with my family." Hearing her explanation, Jamie became more convinced she was his lover's reincarnation from 60,000 years ago. It must be the Water Elf sensing her soul, which led to following and contracting with her. Because contracts with the Elf King differ from ordinary contracts. That represents a soul contract with mutual lives as collateral. They subsequently discussed other matters. Yet Jamie consistently made her laugh delightedly. Near midday, Jamie indicated he must return, watching his departing figure. Rebecca felt a trace of reluctance, however, while the two were engaged in romantic conversation. A shadowy figure appeared in the castle's dark recesses holding a carrier pigeon. He attached a message reading "Jamie is a magical genius" to the pigeon's leg. Without doubt, before Jamie's return home, this news would spread throughout the continent. Meanwhile, the recently returned Jamie encountered the apologetic Alp. After the previous incident, both brothers had changed, with Alp becoming much more subdued. Despite his reluctance, he offered a sincere apology. Yet his brother maintained an arrogant and domineering attitude. Jamie immediately recognized that the brother had been the true schemer behind the scenes, so he decided to teach him a lesson. Dark magic descended upon Reynolds. Cold, pain, fear, all negative sensations surged through his mind. Reynolds felt a terrifying eye watching him. Though he knew it was an illusion, he involuntarily knelt down. Remember, forgiveness comes only once. Never provoke me again. 2.5 days later, Count Simon's ball finally concluded. Upon returning home, Jamie immediately summoned Purple and Yellow to inquire about intelligence regarding the Zenith religious order. Purple told him, the Zenith religious group is currently performing charitable acts everywhere, free of charge, providing food to the hungry and shelter to the homeless. They have even opened an orphanage. Many people have become infatuated with the Zenith religion and become their devout followers. Hearing these words, Jamie understood clearly, Zenith is absolutely not such a benevolent god. When his divine nature erupts, he will surely bring death and war. Therefore, Jamie was certain he was plotting something. He instructed Yellow and Purple to continue gathering intelligence. On the return journey, Jamie discovered a man lying in an alley near his home. From the divine power emanating from the man, and the sword at his waist, Jamie deduced this person was precisely the type of religious order holy knight that irritated him. Just as Jamie prepared to eliminate him on the spot, the man suddenly grasped his foot and weakly uttered, "So hungry." He then fainted immediately. Seeing this, Jamie intended to continue leaving him there, as the man would starve to death anyway. However, when he awoke from sleep at home, he discovered the man sitting at his family's dining table, devouring food ravenously. His father's patrol soldiers had discovered the man during their night rounds and brought him back for rescue. After conversation, the man stated he was a devotee serving Lord Paro. Hearing this, Jamie's mother expressed great surprise, mentioning she belonged to the Bell family. Upon this revelation, the man immediately knelt down. This action left Jamie puzzled. Though the Paro religious order operates within Bell family territory, that hardly warrants kneeling. Holy knights kneel only before bishop-level figures. Could it be that the Paro religious order has connections with my mother's family? If so, this becomes quite troublesome, because the woman worshipped by the Paro religious order is also among my targets for elimination. After the meal, Jamie immediately sought out his mother, intending to clarify the relationship between her family and Paro. Yet his mother's response shocked him. His maternal great-grandfather had been a benefactor to the Paro religious order. His mother told him once the Paro religious order had a sacred artifact stolen. His maternal great-grandfather assisted them and lost his life in the process. That was an item capable of summoning the Demon King. Therefore, the Paro religious order promised all Bell family bloodline would receive bishop-level treatment. Hearing his mother's words, Jamie suddenly made a decision that violated ancestral principles. Bishop-level treatment is quite favorable. Though I must eventually eliminate Paro, while I can utilize this advantage, I shall exploit it thoroughly. Ras from the Paro order appeared near the Earl's estate precisely to pursue a chimera creator. He simply hadn't expected to faint from hunger first, and he pleaded with the Earl for assistance. After their conversation, Wilton agreed to help him. The next day, he told Jamie to take the man to familiarize himself with the town environment. Although Jamie was somewhat reluctant, he went out of respect for his father. However, he had his own agenda, to visit the Zenith Order branch while they were out. When they arrived at their destination, a speeding carriage suddenly crashed toward a child who was sweeping. Ras rushed forward to help upon seeing this, but his speed was still a step too slow. At this critical moment, Jamie unleashed his chain magic. Purple chains firmly restrained the carriage, saving the child. This action naturally earned Ras's admiration. The rescued child was named Ricky, responsible for sweeping duties at the temple, and also lived at the Zenith orphanage. Learning that the two were heading to the Zenith order, Ricky volunteered to serve as their guide. However, when they arrived at the order and met the nun, she became alert, especially after hearing that Ras was from the Paro order. Her squinting eyes instantly became wide with alarm. This subtle change naturally didn't escape Jamie's notice. The nun then suggested that Ricky showed Jamie around the orphanage, while she took Ras to tour the temple. Jamie realized she wanted to separate them, so he deliberately mentioned in front of the nun that he would bring Ras to dine with his father later, hinting that Ras couldn't come to harm here. After this, Ricky brought Jamie to his room door, saying he wanted to introduce his half-sister to him. Jamie was initially somewhat repulsed, but the moment the girl appeared, Jamie was stunned, because he sensed from her body that she naturally possessed the qualifications to become a saint. Saints are heaven-sent agents of the gods, and certain parts of their bodies are born with powerful divinity. Ricky's sister Anna was blind, but that was also due to her powerful divinity. Once she awakened her saintly powers, she would be able to see all movements in the world through divine eyes. Thinking of this, Jamie became nervous, because once such a person matured, they would inevitably become a troublesome enemy. Jamie was about to act, but then realized that if he could detect this, the high-ranking clergy of the Zenith Order couldn't possibly be unaware. He then learned from Ricky's words. that he had once been a small-time member of the Power Gang organization, and his greatest dream now was to become a priest of the Zenith Order. Combining this with the clues he had gathered earlier, Jamie deduced that Zenith was using these children. Meanwhile, Ras also discovered some irregularities during his temple tour. Just as they were preparing to leave, the narrow-eyed man suddenly emerged with a fully armed knight. As a fellow Order knight, Ras was particularly sensitive to divine perception. What puzzled him was that while the opposing knight's divinity was powerful, it was chaotic and disorganized. Back at the Earl's estate, he recounted the day's events to Wilton, suspecting that the knight they encountered was a chimera wielding divine power. To avoid alerting their enemies, Wilton lent Ras the shadow knights that protected the family, stating they must uncover the true face of the Zenith Order. Meanwhile, through Blake's eavesdropping, Jamie also learned that Zenith was the culprit behind the chimera creation. He immediately ordered Blake to summon Yellow and Purple. At that moment, in the attic next to the Zenith Temple, Yellow and Purple were closely observing the movements across the way. Suddenly, rapid footsteps approached. The two turned around alertly, only to see the knight from earlier charging at them with sword raised. Sensing the divinity within the opponent, Purple knew they were no match. So he immediately pushed Yellow out the window, telling him to quickly report to their master. It was because of this that Purple was struck by the knight's sword, just as he thought he was about to die in this attic. A magic circle descended from above. Jamie made his brilliant entrance. "You need to look at the owner before beating the dog. Who the hell gave you permission?" After a series of black magic combos, the knight was overwhelmed. Just as Jamie restrained him and prepared to remove his helmet, the knight suddenly initiated self-destruction. Jamie cast Dark Hand to contain the opponent's action, but the divine power erupting was too strong. If Blake hadn't protected him, Jamie would have been injured too. After the explosion, the knight revealed his true chimera form. Jamie went all out, binding it tightly with chain magic. Just as Jamie was about to finish it with Death Wave, a small object suddenly shot out from within the creature and quickly escaped through the window. Jamie looked out the window without pursuing. He wasn't worried about the opponent escaping. Once grasped by his dark hand, the entire body would be tainted with black magic power. He could find it again at any time, and the opponent wouldn't discover the traces he left behind, because his power was black magic created specifically for god-slaying from the beginning. Although the chimera's main body escaped, its physical form remained. Jamie brought it home for dissection. After examining the corpse's structure clearly, Jamie was thoroughly enraged. Those gods indeed still viewed humans as parasites. Meanwhile, the chimera body that escaped from Jamie returned to the Zenith Temple. Upon seeing it, the narrow-eyed man looked as miserable as if his father had died. This was an expert-level chimera he had painstakingly created by combining 4 creatures, now reduced to just a main body. Could it be Earl Wilton? This thought was immediately dismissed by the narrow-eyed man. If the Sword Saint had acted, the main body couldn't possibly have survived. Moreover, his connection with the main body was instantly severed, which was impossible without disruption magic. Furthermore, to deal with an expert-level chimera, a mage would need to be at least level 5 or above. The narrow-eyed man couldn't think of anyone in the city capable of this, so he decided not to dwell on it. The most important thing was restoring a body for the main form. Anna, who possessed saintly qualifications under his command, was undoubtedly the best material, but he didn't want to waste her on a chimera. So he designated Ricky as the next candidate. The next day, the narrow-eyed man came to the church to announce this news. Learning he had been chosen as God's priest, the unsuspecting Ricky thought he had struck it lucky. He wanted to share this good news with Jamie and Ras, who had once saved him. So he came to the Earl's estate that very day. The two who learned of this didn't tell Ricky the truth, but began taking separate actions. Creating a divine chimera required 3 specific conditions: the sacrifice to serve as material, the creator responsible for experimentation, and the high-ranking priest to inject divine power. Jamie knew there was only one high-ranking priest in the area, the bishop with squinting eyes. Now Ras and the Shadow Knights were already tracking Ricky's carriage, so the task of clearing out the laboratory fell to them, while he would handle the bishop. At this moment, the narrow-eyed man had no idea he was being targeted by death. Just as he prepared to cast magic remotely to inject divinity into Ricky, a terrifying aura suddenly pulled his arm back. The narrow-eyed man cursed and immediately released a magic circle. This was a bishop-level battle sanctuary where opponents couldn't cast magic within range, while priest's power would increase geometrically. He charged quickly toward Jamie, determined to turn this child who interfered with his plans into new material. But before his fist could hit the target, he was restrained by black magic around his wrist. The narrow-eyed man was shocked. How could he still cast black magic? Jamie let out a light laugh. Heh, today I'll show you just how ridiculous your so-called sanctuary is. Before the narrow-eyed man could recover from his shock, Jamie had already blasted him away with magic. The demon-like Jamie approached him step by step, yet even so, the narrow-eyed man still chose to remain stubborn, claiming he would say nothing. Hearing this, Jamie laughed excitedly. Are you confused? I don't need your consent at all. I just need to crack open your skull and take a look. Meanwhile, a man with hemorrhoids on his head was freaking out in the basement. He was the chimera creator responsible for experiments, but now with time so delayed and the narrow-eyed man still not delivering the main body. This made him suspect something had gone wrong, and what made matters worse, A group of knights had suddenly broken into the laboratory. 4 of his painstakingly created chimeras were already dead. On the other side, after Jamie had explored all the secrets, he performed enhanced brainwashing on the narrow-eyed man and made him voluntarily confess to the Earl's estate. After handling these matters, he transformed himself to look like the narrow-eyed man and came to the laboratory. The man with hemorrhoids was about to explode in anger, but seeing the injured narrow-eyed man, he was momentarily stunned. Jamie deceived him by saying he had encountered a strange boy and had just spent considerable effort dealing with him, which caused the delay. The man with hemorrhoids told him to quickly hand over the main body. Any further delay would interfere with the experiment. During their conversation, the alert man with hemorrhoids suddenly realized the narrow-eyed man wasn't genuine and immediately launched an attack. Jamie hadn't expected a guy with boils all over his head to be so calculating. Since he was discovered, it was time to come clean. As Jamie clenched his fist, the chimera main body was instantly bound by black magic, with the sound of pustules bursting. The man with hemorrhoids was thoroughly enraged, but before he could act, a massive magic circle appeared beneath his feet. This space is too cramped. Let's find somewhere else to play. As the magic circle activated, both were transported to the outskirts. The man with hemorrhoids was now completely approaching fury. All the chimera parts fused with him were fully exposed. He launched a frenzied attack against Jamie. Seeing the chimera within the opponent, Jamie was momentarily stunned. He hadn't expected it to be fused with 7 different creatures, and the transplanted abilities were quite impressive. Jamie smiled wickedly as black magic power gathered in his hands. Haha, today I'm definitely going to make you my servant. While Jamie and Ras were busy fighting, Ricky awoke from unconsciousness. Just as he wondered where he was, he unexpectedly discovered friends in the living cultivation tanks. Seeing this scene, Ricky instantly understood everything. So God's priests were all the bishop's test subjects. He ran outside in terror but hadn't gone far when he encountered Ras, who was battling chimeras. Upon seeing Ricky, the 2 chimeras frantically attacked him. Ras rushed forward to rescue him, but even his most powerful strike couldn't stop them. With a tremendous crash, Ras stared blankly ahead. In the end, he couldn't protect that child, but just then, Ricky's voice emerged from the thick smoke. He was glowing with golden light all over his body, and he was completely unharmed. Ras was shocked and quickly rushed to pull him back. Seeing their surroundings, Ras knew he couldn't both protect Ricky and fight, so he told Ricky to escape first while he stayed behind to cover him. But when Ricky ran out the main gate, he sensed an even more terrifying presence. Meanwhile, Jamie was still engaged in fierce combat with the man with hemorrhoids. To make the opponent his servant, Jamie had been building up his magic power. Finally, he seized the opportunity and trapped the opponent with a dark barrier. Who would have thought the chimera body could actually cast magic? This truly surprised Jamie. Seeing this, Jamie decided to stop playing around. He used his duplicate self. He cast decay magic on the opponent and activated black orbs to amplify the pain in the man with hemorrhoids. He wanted to torment him with endless suffering. The man with hemorrhoids lost his temper completely. Just as Jamie was about to transform him into a living dead, 2 chimeras suddenly charged from the distance. Jamie cursed. He had consumed too much magic power dealing with the man with hemorrhoids earlier, and now lacked the strength to continue killing chimeras. So he immediately decided to abandon the idea of turning the man with hemorrhoids into living dead, and opted for immediate execution instead. But even after a magic bullet pierced the opponent's heart, the man with hemorrhoids remained standing. Not only that, he could still command the chimeras to launch magical attacks on Jamie. Soon the magic-depleted Jamie fell into disadvantage. However, at this moment, Ricky accidentally stumbled into this area. Seeing the chimera charging up an attack toward Jamie, he involuntarily rushed forward, standing alone in front of him. As expected, he was about to meet with disaster. As the smoke cleared, Ricky had lost all vital signs. Looking at Ricky's corpse, Jamie began trembling uncontrollably. 60,000 years, and once again someone died because of me. The despair in his heart completely ignited his fury. At this moment, the man with hemorrhoids still didn't realize things had escalated, continuously mocking from the sidelines. As black magic power gathered, Jamie unleashed the first authority he had created. A terrifying aura instantly filled the entire forest. The next second, countless skeletal soldiers rose from the ground. These were the undead legions Jamie had created to resist the 12 heavenly gods. Seeing this scene, the man with hemorrhoids became somewhat panicked. Facing countless skeletons, he still chose to be stubborn, refusing to believe that a bunch of low-level magical creatures could harm him. But within 2.5 seconds, Jamie taught him a lesson. Undead skeletons fear no pain and have transcended death. Even with bodily damage, they can continue fighting. Thus, the man with hemorrhoids and his chimera minions were easily dealt with by Jamie. Just then, Jamie was surprised to discover that a green pearl had emerged from the man with hemorrhoids' mouth. This was a life pearl, an artifact that automatically replenished life energy. No wonder hitting his heart earlier hadn't killed him. But what excited Jamie most was, this pearl could allow him to break through the limitations of his youthful body. After securing it, Jamie dismissed the undead army. But immediately the side effects of the magic made him cough up blood. Even so, he persisted in staying conscious, because he couldn't let Ricky just die like this. Coming before the body, Jamie activated necromancy, preparing to turn Ricky into a living dead to keep by his side, but the skill was only halfway cast when a golden light burst forth from within Ricky. Before the golden light faded, a woman's voice suddenly rang out. "Don't you know he's God's apostle? Are you trying to steal from me?" Looking up, Jamie was stunned, because the woman before him was one of the 12 gods on his revenge list, the goddess Paro. Paro angrily demanded why Jamie wanted to turn her possession into a living dead. Jamie said he simply didn't want the boy to die. This statement instantly enraged Paro. "Aren't the living dead still dead? You're insulting the deceased." Hearing this, Jamie also became thoroughly angry. "Aren't you the ones who don't value life? Weren't it you 12 heavenly gods who sacrificed all of humanity?" Jamie's angry shout left Paro momentarily stunned. She stammered denials it wasn't her. Before Jamie could detect the inconsistency, Paro immediately changed the subject, stating that Ricky was her apostle in the mortal world. Apostles are the humans closest to gods. Their mere existence grants them papal-level status, while also possessing martial prowess matching the title of strongest holy knight. Although Jamie had noticed Ricky possessed divinity, he hadn't discovered this identity. Suddenly he thought of something, and said to Paro with a smile, "Sorry, it might be a bit late now. The black magic has already penetrated his body." Hearing this, Paro erupted in fury and immediately released divine power to annihilate Jamie, enduring the pain in his body. Jamie smiled and said, "If you kill me, Ricky will die too, and there can only be one apostle at a time, right? If Ricky dies, who knows how much time it will take to find the next one?" Paro trembled with rage. Jamie was right. Apostles were their only medium for descending to the mortal world. She hadn't expected him to understand so much. She demanded to know who Jamie really was, but Jamie began discussing matters about the gods on his own. Paro frowned and chose silence, and it was precisely this detail that Jamie picked up on. As a goddess who had turned from evil to good, Paro's divinity prevented her from lying. From his several questions, he had already seen that the 12 heavenly gods were not harmonious at all. He told her he was a black mage who had inherited Diabolo's will, his past self from 60,000 years ago. Hearing this name, Paro was both shocked and panicked. Jamie smiled and asked if she wanted to cooperate with him. Paro was somewhat at a loss. She left Ricky behind and told Jamie to find her in Epton. Looking at Ricky, lying on the ground, Jamie fell into contemplation. A guy who was both apostle and living dead seemed like he had gained another tool for opposing the gods. The brainwashed, narrow-eyed man hadn't even reached the Earl's estate when his head was severed by a woman. This person was one of the 7 great knights of the Zenith Order. With Heiss's plan having failed, they could only resort to Plan B. So the next day, someone claiming to be a Zenith Order Inquisitor came to the Earl. He stated he had received orders from above to purge heretics. Saying this, he handed the Chimera main body to the Earl while informing him that the narrow-eyed man was a traitor to their order and they had publicly executed him yesterday. Hearing this, Ras became displeased. "This is definitely scripted. You actually dared to destroy evidence." But before he could finish speaking, Wilton interrupted him. He looked at the person before him with a smile. "You're really brave, daring to kill people on my territory. Do you want to die?" The terrifying pressure made the minion immediately kneel. He carefully explained they were merely judging their own criminal. Wilton snorted coldly. "How presumptuous. Here, I am the judge." Though the minion trembled like a sieve, he hadn't forgotten his mission, to confront the Earl head-on. "With all due respect, Lord Earl, opposing Zenith like this is not a wise choice." But as soon as he finished speaking, Wilton severed one of his hands. "If you want to keep your head, get the hell out of my territory." The minion was completely panicked. Killing at the slightest disagreement wasn't what his leader had described. At this point, Ras also understood. From the beginning, the Earl had never mentioned the Chimera matter, instead consistently emphasizing his position as the territorial lord. This reason was completely sufficient to leave Zenith speechless. Seeing the Earl's determined expression, the minion knew there was no room for negotiation, so he took his severed hand and left the Earl's estate in disgrace. Over the following days, Zenith paid massive compensation in gold and withdrew. Ras also found Ricky, and solemnly knelt before him. It turned out Ras was a divine executor of the Paro order. The moment goddess Paro descended, he sensed it and received a divine oracle to welcome the goddess's apostle. He stated he would escort him to Epton, and his sister Anna would be taken along as well. Ras told Ricky that as a saint, Anna would surely awaken her divinity and restore her sight before long. Hearing this news, Ricky excitedly embraced his sister. But he had no idea that the simultaneous appearance of an apostle and saint was a harbinger of great chaos. To get his mother to take him to live with his grandfather in Epton, Jamie pounced into his mother's arms like a little wildcat. But this action didn't satisfy his mother, who insisted he strike a cute pose before agreeing. The helpless Jamie had no choice but to comply reluctantly, thinking that he, the continent's greatest black mage, was actually making such gestures. He wished he could immediately crawl into a crack in the ground, but he didn't know that Jamie's grandfather had already written to his father, requesting to meet him. Early the next morning, Jamie set out with his mother and sister. Also accompanying them were Ras and the Ricky siblings. Before leaving, Jamie specifically digested the life pearl. Breaking through to 6th level mage was merely a matter of time. While passing through the Mythical mountains, Ras told everyone a legendary story. In ancient times, 2 dragons had appeared here. One was an evil black dragon. The other was a benevolent blue dragon. The blue dragon Myatre had a beloved human mage, but dragons and humans were destined never to be together. So the dragon clan, learning of this, sent the black dragon to assassinate that mage. In the fierce battle that followed, the mountain range in this area was split into several sections. Though humans repelled the black dragon, Myatre's lover lost his life. Thus, Myatre saw off her beloved, and legend says she still guards his grave here. This mountain range was also named Myatre by people. After hearing this story, everyone just laughed it off. But only Jamie knew in his heart that this must be a true story. Just then, lightning suddenly struck from the sky. A withered tree was hit and fell directly toward Jamie's carriage. His mother and sister inadvertently fell into the valley. Jamie cast magic to pull them back. But just after rescuing his mother and sister, magic power combustion appeared around his body. This was advanced magic that could render mages powerless. In his daze, Jamie heard a voice in his mind. "Are you a dragon?" Before he could react, he fell into the water pool. After an unknown amount of time, Jamie awoke in a cave. His hands were also firmly bound by magic chains. Just as he wondered where this place was, a woman with tentacles suddenly approached. This was the legendary blue dragon Myatre. Myatre had captured Jamie because she sensed his breathing technique was similar to dragons, thinking he was also a dragon. But after confirming Jamie's fingerprints, she realized her mistake. She questioned how Jamie had learned this breathing technique. Jamie replied speechlessly, "Damn it, when I was playing with magic, you were still a tadpole." After some arguing, Jamie also guessed the opponent's identity. He asked Myatre in return why she was capturing dragons. Who would have thought that after saying this, the opponent's aura immediately changed? Myatre angrily declared she would kill all the dragons in the world. It turned out that 700 years ago, a black mage named Garon had reached 9th level with his human body. He met Myatre and together they explored ruins, seeking the truth of the world. Eventually they fell in love, and initially they were quite happy. Until Lord, another dragon, issued his command and everything changed. A dragon practicing white magic falling in love with a human practicing black magic violated dragon clan regulations. To kill Garon, all dragons mobilized. Though Garon and Myatre escaped, they couldn't be together. The ruins they hid in could only accept one person's presence, with very strong restrictions. Myatre, who returned to the dragon clan, was exiled for 1,000 years. Originally, 1,000 years wasn't long for dragons. However, more than 10 years later, Garon came to rescue Myatre after finding the truth of the world, and his heart had once fallen into collapse. Though he rescued Myatre, he still died in these mountains from severe injuries. Originally, Myatre had planned to quietly live out the rest of her life. But unexpectedly, the Dragon Clan began erasing everything about Garon, his records, and even everyone who had seen him. To preserve traces of Garon, Myatre remained here. After hearing the story, Jamie suddenly thought of something. No wonder since his revival he hadn't heard any stories about black mages. It turned out this was all related to dragons. Could the truth Garon discovered back then also be related to himself? Thinking of this, Jamie suddenly wanted to visit Garon's grave. He expressed that as a fellow mage he wanted to pay his respects. Myatre paused, then agreed. However, what Jamie didn't expect was that one of the 3 great artifacts he had created 60,000 years ago was now quietly inserted at Garon's gravestone. This was a bracelet with absolute immunity to plague and curses, and also one of the 3 great artifacts Jamie had forged 60,000 years ago. He just hadn't expected to discover it here. It seemed Garon must have discovered his existence back then. But now, in front of Myatre, how could he take the bracelet? He couldn't very well say this thing was his creation. After much thought, Jamie smiled and asked if Garon had left behind anything else. Myatre told him there was also a diary, but it was meaningless, because nothing was written in the diary. Seeing the diary, Jamie was about to reach for it when Myatre interrupted, telling him not to bother. The seal on the diary was difficult for humans to break. Just as she was about to take Jamie away from there, black magic power suddenly emanated from Jamie's body. Seeing the scene, Myatre was shocked. It's actually black magic. The ominous power within even exceeds that of Garon from back then under her astonished gaze. Jamie had already broken the diary's seal. The diary recorded his deep and shallow love story with Myatre, as well as his process of discovering the world's truth. It was a stone tablet with over 60,000 years of history, and the words on the tablet were exactly what Jamie had carved before participating in the War of the Gods. Only what made Jamie curious was what place Galman mentioned on the tablet was. He couldn't remember writing that sentence. Could someone have discovered his existence before Garon? But speaking of which, Garon was indeed quite remarkable. With just one bracelet, he could find the secrets the 12 heavenly gods had hidden. Myatre, having read the diary's contents, was already in tears. Jamie was about to offer some comfort. When she reacted, "What exactly is your black magic power? I've sought countless black mages, but none could break the seal above. Though I don't want to admit it, the ominous power you just emanated is precisely the ideal force Garon pursued." Hearing this, Jamie knew she had taken the bait, so he lied that he was a mage inheriting Garon's will. Hearing this, Myatre collapsed powerlessly. "In that case, do you also plan to oppose the 12 heavenly gods?" At these words, Jamie's thoughts immediately returned to 60,000 years ago. 60,000 years. Even in the moment of death, I never wavered in my desire to destroy the 12 heavenly gods. So in this life, I absolutely will not give up. After receiving Jamie's affirmative reply, Maitre handed him the bracelet, expressing hope that he could properly inherit Garen's will, and that when opposing the 12 heavenly gods, she would stake everything to help Jamie. Looking at the humming bracelet on his wrist, Jamie's heart couldn't contain its excitement. "Old friend, long time no see, are you greeting me?" Jamie returned from the Blue Dragon, and encountered Ras, who was searching for him, after having the other promised to keep his secret. Everyone continued their journey. Passing through the Selden Kingdom, everyone stayed at Count Bao's estate. During this time, Jamie found Ricky too clingy and went out alone to wander the streets. Unexpectedly, he was targeted by 2 minions, simply because they saw the bracelet on Jamie's wrist. Jamie was just feeling too bored when people came to entertain him, so he decided to refine the 2 into living dead. Before he could cast his spell, a teleportation circle suddenly appeared behind him. A pair of small hands grabbed him and pulled him in. The next second, Jamie appeared in a laboratory. The one who had acted was the pink-haired girl standing before him. Jamie was instantly furious. "Damn it, you dare kidnap me? Have you had enough of living?" Without regard for her pleas for mercy, Jamie launched an attack spell. But when the magic approached her, he was shocked to discover that the girl had black magic protection within her body. Jamie stopped his attack and demanded to know who she was. The girl began crying pitifully, telling Jamie that she was afraid the 2 black magic users from earlier would capture him, so she had acted to help him. Jamie sneered coldly. "Stop pretending. You also have dark magical power in you. I think you're all working together. Don't tell me you're trying to pull some kind of honey trap on me." The girl stammered that she wasn't what he thought. She turned to leave. But how could Jamie let her go? Seeing Jamie like the Grim Reaper, the girl panicked and spilled everything she knew, even revealing the color of her underwear. But Jamie had no intention of letting her off so easily. What others say and what you see yourself are 2 different things. Dark magical power began spreading across his hands. Seeing this, the girl suddenly stopped sobbing. How is this dark magical power created? Why doesn't it feel unpleasant or disturbing to life? Just as Jamie was about to place his hand on her head, the girl suddenly grabbed Jamie. "Please take me as your apprentice." She threw herself at Jamie and began recounting her pitiful family background and the bullying she endured at school. Jamie's face darkened. "Damn it, what does any of this have to do with taking apprentices?" The girl was about to argue further, but Jamie just smiled slightly. He placed his hand directly on her head. "Sorry, but I refuse." After the mind reading, Jamie learned the girl's name was Vina. She was a student from a nearby academy with about 20 people, studying curses as their major. Seeing this, Jamie suddenly became interested. He wanted to personally examine how much knowledge had accumulated in the black magic he had created long ago. To destroy the 12 gods, he had created black magic. But after 60,000 years, black magic had fallen to the point of experimenting on human bodies. After Jamie infiltrated the academy and witnessed this scene, he felt profound sadness. The seed he had sown had grown into something monstrous. What to do? He could only uproot it. Meanwhile, Vina, who had regained consciousness, was once again subjected to bullying from her classmates. Various negative curses were hurled at her all at once. Just as she knelt begging for mercy, Jamie suddenly appeared in front of her. "Are you really that afraid of them? Get up right now." Jamie's words seemed to possess a kind of magic. They instantly ignited Vina's fighting spirit, and her long-accumulated resentment made her completely explode. The minion's surprise was only momentary. A person who had been bullied by them for years, how much power could she possibly unleash? He then launched another spell at Vina, but this time Jamie intervened, ignoring the minion's taunts. Jamie calmly turned to look at Vina. "You only get one chance. If you can't seize it, there won't be a next time." Upon hearing this, Vina's expression instantly changed. At the same time, in the academy director's room, a white-haired man excitedly stood up. "Excellent. Vina has finally awakened as a Valkyrie." On the other side, Jamie also noticed the change in Vina. Valkyries are high elves known as battle spirits, whose powerful strength allows them to wage war against the 12 gods. But wasn't this race extinct during the War of the Gods? It seems the academy director Gaff was behind this. To make it easier to control her later, he deliberately suppressed her personality since Valkyries are naturally competitive. Just then, an alarm sounded in the room, and Gaff's voice rang out. "Everyone bring Vina to my room. Minor injuries are permitted." Under this command, all the minions in the school rushed into the room. Jamie smiled and told Vina, "See clearly now? Everything that happened here was arranged by the academy director. Now start releasing your true nature." He then kicked Vina into the crowd. The minions' curse magic frantically attacked Vina, but after awakening, her body was exceptionally agile, dodging the sneak attack in one move. She even threw the attacking minion away, after seeing her own power clearly. Vina began counterattacking frantically like an athlete who had picked up a basketball. On the other side, several minions who hadn't yet joined the battle were blocked by Jamie. "Though they're just a bunch of kids, I've already decided to take it back. Blake, have all these children been examined? I need to reclaim their power." Just then, the academy director walked in with an excited expression. "Oh, all my students are dead. It seems your strength is quite impressive. Want to team up with me? We could devour an entire nation." Jamie looked speechless, thinking to himself, "I was resurrected to slay gods, damn it. This kind of trash wants to team up with me, simply not taking me seriously at all." At this point, Vina couldn't hold back either. She demanded to know why he had done all this to her. Gaff chuckled, "Of course, to harvest the awakened you. Do you know how much effort I put in when I first obtained you? To crush your nature. I even established this academy. Every time I saw you suffer and tremble with fear, I was thrilled beyond measure. Because only you, stripped of your nature, could be used by me. Hearing this, Vina immediately wanted to charge forward. But Gaff wasn't worried at all, because for over 10 years, he had been planting dark devices in her body. Once activated, he could completely control her. However, before he could act, Vina collapsed unconscious. This scene left Gaff completely bewildered. It turned out that from the beginning, Jamie had been clearing the dark energy from her body. Without a hostage, he could ruthlessly slaughter his opponent. After delivering a wave of taunts, Gaff launched the first attack. Various curses rushed toward Jamie as if they had been supercharged. Just when Gaff thought he had this victory in the bag, Jamie flashed in front of him, then delivered a palm strike to his face. The magic-infused blow made Gaff immediately spit blood. A series of curse spells hit Gaff. Even as he completely collapsed, he couldn't figure out how Jamie had avoided his curses. Seeing his dazed expression, Jamie smiled and revealed his bracelet. "Oh, I forgot to tell you, this bracelet grants immunity to all curses." Gaff looked shocked, but before he could speak, Jamie kicked him. "Don't think I'll let you die so easily. As the seed I planted, I naturally have the right to reclaim it. And you will become my first immortal sinner." Gate of Defiance open. From behind the massive gate, several chains flew out. Gaff's soul was pulled out. "Sleep now. Your soul will suffer endless torment, while your body will serve me. From now on, your name will be Nebro. Stand up and meet your new master." Vina also awakened soon after. Now that her great revenge was complete, her only wish was to become Jamie's disciple. Jamie immediately refused, because she was a Valkyrie. These were high elves that existed in ancient times. They were brave and fearless, but unfortunately were defeated in the War of the Gods. Though he didn't know how the bloodline had survived to the present, Jamie knew that Vina was likely the only remaining Valkyrie. More importantly, Valkyries were a race without magical talent. Even taking her as a disciple would be meaningless. Thinking he had made himself clear enough, unexpectedly Vina protested that she knew transformation magic. The scene shifted to a carriage. A pink raccoon followed Jamie onto the vehicle. "Damn it, if you didn't know transformation magic, I would have left you behind long ago." The journey proceeded peacefully, and everyone arrived at Jamie's grandfather's territory. Family gatherings are always heartwarming, but upon seeing Jamie, his grandfather became worried. He could see the magical talent contained within Jamie. He believed that before long the entire world would revolve around Jamie, but such great talent would also arouse people's greed. Though his son-in-law could currently fend off these threats, there would eventually come a limit. Therefore, grandfather decided to give Jamie his grandmother's necklace. Even if it couldn't serve as his shield, it would provide him with substantial help. While his grandfather and mother were discussing Jamie, Jamie was already throwing a fit in his room. Ever since returning home, Vina had resumed human form. She had taken over his bed. Just as he was about to teach her a lesson on the spot, a powerful killing intent struck directly at his head. Jamie's heart jumped, and he ran straight out of the room. He sensed that this murderous intent was directed toward his mother's room. Could it be a sneak attack from the Zenith cult? After running frantically, Jamie discovered a man as tall as a mountain standing at his mother's door. Without hesitation, Jamie immediately activated fusion magic. This commotion also alerted grandfather and mother inside the room. Jamie knew that defeating his opponent without exposing his true strength would be difficult. Now he could only hold off the opponent while taking his mother away. But before his magic could hit the target, the man grabbed him. "Kid, now that I've seen your strength, it's my turn." Jamie was shocked. "Too strong. It looks like I'll have to use black magic." Just as Jamie was about to release his magic, the room door suddenly opened. Both mother and grandfather looked completely bewildered. "Jamie, how can you be so rude? You don't even know who he is, yet you attack directly. This is utterly disgraceful to our family." While his mother was scolding him, the man suddenly spoke. "Enough. I did that on purpose earlier. I heard the heir of the Wilton family was quite talented, so I decided to test him a little." However, Jamie didn't realize at this moment that this man who claimed to be testing him was actually his mother's earliest suitor, one of the 5 sword saints, Storm Sword Saint Belial. He had come not only to test Jamie's strength, but also to take him as a disciple. He had heard from Archmage Linmore that Jamie could improve his level just by breathing. But swordsmanship was different. Once you miss the optimal age, picking it up becomes much more difficult. Jamie clearly understood Belial's intention, but what he most wanted to do now was restore his peak strength. So he politely told the other party that he only wanted to focus on magic. Jamie then went alone to the back garden to clear his mind. Though his luck in this life had been exceptionally good, he had obtained the full body breathing technique and the Pearl of Life, and even recovered his bracelet, but it still wasn't enough. Soon his magic would reach a bottleneck. Starting from the 7th tier, known as the Grand Mage Realm, simply accumulating power wasn't sufficient. Mages needed to have their own magical philosophy, otherwise they wouldn't gain magic's recognition. If he continued following his previous life's path, it shouldn't be too difficult. But Jamie knew that the old methods had already failed. Did he really need to pursue both magic and martial arts? Also, earlier in the room, when the Storm Sword Saint saw his mother's expression, why did he look so upset? There must be some secret he didn't know about. While Jamie was pondering these questions alone, a massive magical beast suddenly burst out of the pond in front of him. Jamie was startled and immediately cast a shield to defend himself. "Damn it, how dare you disturb me." Just as Jamie was about to finish off his opponent, a lightning-fast figure rushed forward. In just 2.5 seconds, the magical beast was dismembered. "Young master, are you all right?" Was late. Jamie looked at him in bewilderment. To instantly kill a magical creature with such strength was quite impressive, even if not comparable to the Storm Sword Saint. The man walked up to Jamie with a smile. "Greetings, I am Sabo, aide to the Bell family." Jamie suddenly understood. If just an aide possessed such strength, how many other experts were there in his grandfather's household? Also, why had this magical beast appeared in the garden? Jamie asked him what was going on. Sabo smiled and deflected the topic, not telling Jamie the truth. Sabo then returned to the Count's mansion and reported the incident to Jamie's grandfather, noting that even if he hadn't intervened, Jamie could have handled that creature. Grandfather nodded in acknowledgement of his grandson's abilities. He knew very well that the creature in the water couldn't have harmed him. But another piece of news Sabo brought back gave him a headache. The Demon King's followers had apparently resurfaced. Now, multiple serial murder cases had occurred in his territory. It seemed those demons from 50 years ago had come seeking revenge. He just didn't know how the Bell family would respond this time. Jamie had originally planned to visit the Paro religious order during the day, but unexpectedly encountered a demonic murder on the road. After investigation, he discovered the victim's heart had been removed. This was an item needed for demonic summoning rituals. Thinking about everyone's expressions at the Count's mansion these past few days, Jamie guessed that something had definitely gone wrong at the Paro religious order. After all, when he first arrived, he had agreed with Ricky to stay in touch, but he hadn't received a single message since. Thinking of this, Jamie activated invisibility and infiltrated the Paro religious order. Originally, he wanted to find Ricky after the high priest and others had left, but unexpectedly, Ricky discovered him despite his invisibility. Jamie was shocked. "How did you find me?" Ricky told him that because this was the goddess's domain, when he first became an apostle, his divinity wasn't fully awakened, but here it was completely awakened. Or rather, he had merged with the temple. Every blade of grass and tree here was within his perception. Here, he couldn't even sense the presence of the undead. Ricky said the goddess had a message to convey to him. As he spoke, a golden light burst from within his body. After the dazzling golden flash, Ricky's entire appearance had changed. He spoke haltingly. "Disgusting demonic energy is awakening. The dark forest, everything begins there. Stop him before he becomes rampant, or my realm will collapse. Go to the dark forest. I hope there will be no casualties." After saying this, Ricky completely deflated. Jamie asked him what was happening. Ricky explained that the goddess wasn't in good condition. Her previous forced descent had placed a tremendous burden on her. "Then why did she specifically seek me out? This place is full of Taro's believers, because only you can do it. According to the goddess, you are her successor. You should know this." Jamie looked exasperated. "Fine, let me gather intelligence first." On the way back, Jamie encountered Sabo. The other seemed to have been following him all along. Before leaving, he meaningfully advised Jamie that even when taking walks in the city, he shouldn't go to the Melanin Forest. Meanwhile, in a dark forest, a group of Zenus cult minions were excitedly laughing at an egg, and what was hatching inside the egg was a baby with red eyes. After receiving the goddess's commission, Jamie decided to investigate. Under cover of night, he and Vina headed to the dark forest. What annoyed Jamie was that he couldn't use dark magical power here. Combined with the annoying Vina, Jamie didn't want to stay a moment longer. The two were walking along the path. Suddenly, the ground beneath them went dark. They fell into a large hole. When he could see his surroundings clearly, Jamie was completely stunned. This was actually an ancient ruin. The text carved on the ruins was in the language of his own era. Jamie curiously walked inside. After breaking through barrier after barrier, the two successfully reached the final room. Just then, the door slowly opened. A massive bear emerged. "You people still dare to come here? What incredible audacity." Jamie looked confused. "Do we know each other? How can you speak human language? Are you a bear that's become sentient?" The bear offered no explanation and frantically attacked Jamie as if they were mortal enemies. In a moment of carelessness, Jamie was struck by a flying stone. Fortunately, he had the pearl of life within him, or that blow would have been dangerous. "I've already blocked your dark magical power. Stop making futile struggles." The bear charged again, and Vina quickly stepped forward to block. Jamie also took the opportunity to cast a 6th tier spell. However, his laboriously executed attack didn't even singe a hair on the bear. Damn it, is there any way to survive this? Meanwhile, in the town's alleys, a patrol soldier had his heart removed by a demon. Just as the demon was pleased that no one could catch him, Sabo appeared behind him with a smile. "Finally found you, kid. You've really given me a headache." As soon as he finished speaking, Sabo had already flashed past the minion. "I didn't expect a body polluted by demonic energy to still not die from that." The minion looked at Sabo with resentment. "Why are you stopping me?" "Heh, I should have told you all not to touch the soldiers, right?" The minion was about to make excuses. Sabo struck back with his sword. "Don't forget your position. You're under my control, so everything must be done according to Father's will." The bear looked coldly at the two. "You put filthy things in my forest. Since you've made an error, you must accept punishment." Jamie looked bewildered. "This is my first time here today. Aren't you mistaken?" "Nonsense. The dark power in the demon egg is exactly the black magic from your bodies." Hearing this, Jamie finally understood. He quickly explained his identity, saying he had come according to Paragoddess's will. If the bear didn't believe him, he could take it to find evidence. The bear stopped its attack. In fact, this forest was also the goddess's domain. If Jamie were lying, divine punishment would have descended earlier. The bear was reasonable, so it didn't make things difficult for Jamie. After some conversation, Jamie learned. About a month ago, the demon egg had appeared in the forest. When the bear went to destroy it, he discovered the egg was protected by thick, dark power. No matter what methods he used, he couldn't shatter it. Finally, he thought of this ruin. The bear wasn't entirely sure who had built it, only knowing the ruin had existed for about 600 years. The ruin's isolation network could block dark power, but it had one drawback. The user had to remain within the ruin. Hearing this, Jamie asked the bear to help him remove the blockade. He wanted to personally examine that egg. The bear looked suspicious, but seeing their sincere expressions, finally removed the blockade. As the dark power returned to his body, Jamie immediately changed his demeanor. What a stupid bear. Let me tell you, no one can control me. Before the bear could react, Jamie had already taken control of the ruin. Not only that, he had also severed the bear's connection to the ruin. Heh, your luck isn't very good. It's not just your master who understands the isolation network well. I'm now the administrator. Watching Jamie continuously modify the ruin's permissions, the bear looked utterly frustrated. How had this guy managed to do it? In just a short while, Jamie had completed the modifications. He smiled at the bear. Don't follow me later, though you can't leave the ruin now anyway. With that, he and Vina disappeared from the room. At the same time, Jamie's grandfather also discovered the corpse on the street. What made him even angrier was that not only had the perpetrator not been found, but Sabo had also disappeared. At this moment, Sabo was standing atop a high tower, smiling as he gazed into the distance. Today was the day another high priest from the Paro religious order would arrive. Once they entered his line of sight, everything would be over. Jamie, emerging from the ruins, was also stunned when he saw the dark power surrounding the magic egg. The text transmitted from the barrier was clearly a sentence he had written in his magic tome 60,000 years ago. What surprised him even more was that only when he touched this barrier did memories of the magic tome Leviathan surge forth. The magic tome had once been part of his own body. It seemed his memories were incomplete. Thinking of this, Jamie took out a ring and gave it to Vina, explaining that he had discovered it in the ruins. Wearing it and channeling magical power would change the ring's form. Next, he would begin absorbing Leviathan's power, and Vina needed to guard him. Vina, receiving the ring, cast a simple spell. The ring transformed into a large hammer. Just then, a sword beam suddenly struck. Jamie's heart jumped, and he told Vina to quickly help him defend. Hammer in hand, Vina immediately charged forward. But after one exchange, a woman walked out with a smile. Jamie sensed she was from the Zenith cult. He warned Vina to be extra careful. However, though Vina was a Valkyrie, she lacked combat experience. After several exchanges, she was already covered in wounds. Jamie couldn't bear to watch anymore. But if he intervened, all his previous absorption would be wasted. Just as he was torn about whether to help, Vina suddenly stopped Jamie. For her, this was a test to change herself. She smiled at her opponent, in the woman's bewildered gaze. Vina activated the most basic curse magic, Sense Reversal. The woman was only slightly surprised, then swung her broadsword. An earth-shaking explosion rang out in the forest. Surrounding trees all burst into flames. Vina lay dying on the ground. Despite giving her all, she still couldn't stop her opponent. In the end, she was too weak. The woman walked toward Vina with a smile. A mere filthy dark mage dares to leave wounds on my body. Since you want to protect that child, today I'll dismember him in front of you. As soon as she finished speaking, Jamie's laughter rang out. Heh, I haven't done anything yet. Don't you dare beg for mercy now. Devouring magic instantly struck the blue-haired woman. Jamie looked at Vina and said quietly, well done. Thanks to you, I could finish the absorption. Now I'll repay them tenfold for you. However, just then the woman suddenly roared. The energy around her instantly transformed. Even Jamie's absorption magic was blocked. Using black magic to absorb my divinity? Next I'm going to smash your skull. Seeing the enraged opponent, Jamie's expression darkened. Heh, in that case. Let me introduce you to a new friend. Stand up. Nebro. With just a casual wave from the boy. A 6th-level skeleton rose from the ground, facing the minion who had awakened divinity. Jamie directly summoned Nebro. One person and one skeleton fought intensely. But Jamie had already left the scene. He wanted to see what exactly that magic egg was. At this time, a minion guarding the magic egg still didn't know what was happening outside when Jamie walked over with a smile. Against this kind of trash, Jamie didn't even need to act personally. With just a command, his undead subordinate instantly eliminated the opponent. However, just then, the magic egg suddenly made a strange noise. Jamie sensed trouble and told his subordinate to retreat quickly. The next second, he saw the magic egg extend tentacles toward the dead minion. It was too late. This egg had absorbed too much life force. Now a demon was about to descend. Just as Jamie finished this sentence, an unknown aura suddenly spread. Nebro, who was fighting, began trembling all over after sensing this aura. The minion saw this and let out a cold laugh. Looks like that annoying guy has arrived on schedule. Mission accomplished. Time for me to leave. That's right, demonic aura naturally suppresses the undead. Seeing the magic egg about to revive, Jamie had Yellow and his subordinate take Vina away first. He understood demon strength very well. Even with his absolute cells, he wasn't confident he could kill the opponent. However, just as Yellow left, a sinister voice came from within the eggshell. Heh, can you handle this alone? If you're defeated too quickly, that would be no fun at all. Seeing the demon crawling out of the egg, Jamie was immediately stunned. This was actually demon nobility, at least master level. Jamie felt a great sense of crisis and immediately became serious. A great battle was about to begin. Meanwhile, at the forest's perimeter, sensing the demon's descent, Sabo suddenly smiled. Go provide support. Are Paro goddesses saint and apostle prepared to die? On the other side, Vina, who had been carried away by Yellow, regained consciousness. Seeing the demonic energy soaring in the distance, she couldn't help but worry about Jamie. She told Yellow she wanted to return to help Jamie, even if she could only buy him some time. Yellow advised her not to be stubborn. With her strength, she was no match for a demon. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Yellow's form suddenly dissipated. Vina's heart jumped. The undead summoning had been cancelled, and there had been an explosion too. Had something happened to Jamie? Vina panicked completely. Just then, the hammer on the ground suddenly spoke. How interesting, a Valkyrie who inherited such pure bloodline. Though it's not yet time, I'll make a special exception today. Remember my name. I am the great blacksmith, the hammer forged for your queen, Philowen. Try to wield me. At the same time, deep in the forest, Jamie was now nearly exhausted, lacking even the strength to maintain flight magic. Jamie plummeted rapidly. Suddenly a soft sensation came from below. Looking up, it was actually the bear. Weren't you locked up by me? After staying here for 600 years, I still know a few secret passages. I didn't expect you to be the one who persisted to the end. Truly worthy of being chosen by Paro. While the man and bear were still talking, the demon baron had already rushed over. The bear's eyes turned cold as he swung his arms to block. The next second, blood sprayed from both arms. Good strength and speed, but I didn't come alone. Landing a punch on the demon baron, the bear called out Vina's name. The next second, Vina descended from the sky wielding the large hammer, with elven wings appearing on her back. The hammer struck the baron heavily. Jamie looked surprised, but there was no time for Vina to explain. Though he had taken 2 hammer blows, the demon baron was definitely not the type to be killed so easily. At the same time, Jamie's grandfather also arrived at the forest perimeter with his men. This intense demonic aura could be sensed even from home, just as they were about to enter the forest. A gentle breeze swept across the sky, lightly dropping a letter. Respected Marquis, let no one enter the woods. I will bring back the demon's head. The signature was Stormsword Saint Belial. At this moment, a minion was frantically fleeing. He was the one who had previously interfered with Jamie's absorption of Leviathan. With the demon's descent, his mission was complete, just as he was fantasizing about what reward he'd receive upon return. A gentle breeze swept across his neck. The next second, he was decapitated and fell. On the other side, the appearance of the bear and Vina hadn't changed the battle's outcome. Even Jamie's long-charged black magic was dodged by the opponent. The boy and the bear collapsed exhausted on the ground, just as Jamie fell into despair. A gentle breeze swept over his head. The next second, Belial descended from the sky with sword in hand, splitting the demon baron in half with a single strike. Kid, I told you early on to take up the sword. The Stormsword Saint's appearance resolved the demonic crisis. He asked Jamie why he was here. Jamie tried to laugh it off with excuses, but Belial said he had seen everything, and Jamie's face darkened. Just as he was about to explain, Belial interrupted him. It's fine. Everyone has secrets they want to hide. No need to speak them aloud. Then he walked up to the bear, indicating that he was someone who explores the world's mysteries. Following Isis's instructions to find what he commissioned, the bear looked serious. So was explorers willing. Belial nodded slightly. Please open the gate of Grimia. Listening to the conversation between the man and bear, Jamie looked completely bewildered. Isis was an explorer of world secrets, but what the hell was Grimia? Just as he was puzzling over these questions, the bear suddenly pointed at him. Sorry, but now this kid is the administrator of Grimia. Jamie was shocked. The ancient ruins were actually Grimia. Then several people entered the ruins. The bear asked Jamie to transfer command to himself. Jamie was somewhat reluctant, but seeing Belial's stern gaze, he reluctantly extended his fist. The moment their fists touched, a stream of light enveloped everyone. The next second, Jamie found himself alone in a vast empty space. Jamie looked surprised. So, you're the system of this ruin, but this place called Grimia couldn't have been made by you, right? The man chuckled and said his name was Almivin, who in life was the creator of the Genius Spatial Network and also a rare 9th-tier mage in the human world. Good job. Are 9th-tier mages everywhere now? You're not also some kind of explorer, are you? Haha, although I have a special relationship with Isis, I'm not an explorer. I'm simply entrusted by him to safeguard the Thunder Dragon Sword Gram. Of course, Grimia wasn't created simply to protect this weapon. I created it to wait for a certain person. Black magic possesses god-slaying power, and I've been waiting for someone who can use black magic. As he spoke, he summoned a glowing cube. The magical power contained within shocked even Jamie, as the energy of the Pearl of Life inside him was instantly restored. Almivin spoke calmly. Grimia is a spatial network that constructs shapes, able to change form and purpose at will according to the user's intentions. It's an artifact with infinite possibilities. Now, I transfer all these permissions to you. Upon receiving Grimia, Jamie instantly felt its tremendous power. This artifact's capabilities even surpassed the former 3 great divine artifacts. Meanwhile, the Archbishop of the Paro religious order died in the temple, and the one who struck was actually Sabo, the aide to Jamie's grandfather, though he had another unknown identity. He is the first sword of Zenith, and also the 6th Heroid Sword Saint hidden within the Empire. After Jamie obtained Grimia, he showed everyone what a heaven-defying divine artifact looked like. Besides being able to freely transform shapes, it also came with healing effects. Just as Belial was preparing to take Jamie home, an ominous feeling suddenly welled up in his heart. Something had happened to the goddess's apostle. Jamie anxiously said they must rush over immediately. Belial looked exasperated. Fine, I'll accompany you one more time. The bear watched their departing figures, muttering internally about how they left without even saying goodbye. Meanwhile, Sabo, having finished hunting the Archbishop, caught up with Ricky and the others. Ras had been commissioned by the Archbishop to protect the saint and apostle. But facing Sabo with Sword Saint level strength, he had no confidence at all. What shocked him even more was, Sabo's authority was actually reversal of causality. For example, if Sabo attacked Ras and Sabo would get injured, after using reversal of causality, he could place the cause of attacking him later and first achieve the result of injury. This authority of making opponents suffer first, then demonstrating the attack process, undoubtedly gave Sabo every advantage. Not to mention Ras's strength was already inferior to Sabo's. Just as Sabo swung his second sword, a thunderous nuclear explosion erupted on the spot. As the smoke cleared, Sabo looked up at the sky with a smile. To be able to repel me, the first sword of Zenith. How strong is this divine power? That's right, the commotion just now was caused by Ras unleashing his divine nature, yet his all-out strike. In Sabo's eyes was nothing more than a trivial sword. He held his silver sword and quickly flashed before Ras. Haha, I told you, you can't stop me. Just as he activated reversal of causality, Ras suddenly smiled. Ricky's divine power was released onto Ras. The next second, Sabo coughed up blood and collapsed. This was the punishment effect of reversal of causality. When the user twists cause and effect beyond what they can bear, retribution falls upon themselves. Haha, indeed, before a god, you're just an insignificant human. Sabo sneered and slowly stood up. Seeing this, Ras immediately charged forward with his sword. However, this time Sabo directly used his fist to clash with the opponent's sword. Haha, if not for the goddess's descent, you'd all just be insignificant humans too. Ras's sword broke, just as Ricky was about to release divine power again. Sabo had already turned his spear toward him and charged. At this critical moment, a black magic spell suddenly descended from the sky. Stop daydreaming, Ricky quickly delivered a fatal blow. A golden light burst forth, and when the dust settled, Sabo's figure had vanished, just as everyone thought he had escaped. A silver thread suddenly caught Belial's attention. Jamie suddenly noticed a silver thread had appeared around his neck, but before he could react, Belial sensed great danger. He quickly blocked in front of Jamie, and the next second his arm was severed by the thread. I was aiming for that kid's neck, worthy of being a sword saint to see through my intentions. Although it cost me something, exchanging it for a sword saint's arm was worth it. While Belial stopped the bleeding on his severed arm, he held everyone back. Everyone step back, I'll handle this person. The duel between two great sword saints made heaven and earth change color. Jamie, who had left first, stood on the cliff worriedly watching Belial. If not for him just now, he would be a corpse right now. It seemed Belial could see through some of the truth behind reversal of causality, but he absolutely couldn't just stand by and watch. At this moment, Belial on the battlefield had fallen into a disadvantage. Though both were sword saints, Sabo was a human who existed in ancient times. He just happened to have a youthful appearance. Before Jamie and the others could leave the cliff, Belial was stabbed through the body and fell. Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts jumped. Sabo looked up at the people on the mountain with a smile. Hey, don't worry, it'll be your turn soon. Holding his silver sword, Sabo quickly charged toward the group. Seeing this, Ricky took the lead, releasing the goddess's barrier. Sabo looked at them mockingly. Don't forget, you're not the only ones with gods. Such a barrier will be useless before Father's power. The temple unleashed tremendous divine power that poured into Sabo's body. A destructive sword strike fiercely hit the protective shield that Ricky had released. In just 2.5 seconds, cracks appeared in the shield. Jamie hid behind the group, using Grimia to contact Belial. At this moment, Belial's life was rapidly fading away, his mind filled with thoughts of Jamie's mother, that woman he had once deeply loved. Your son? I've already saved him. Just as he was alone in his melancholy, Jamie's voice suddenly rang in his ears. What time is this? And you're still thinking about my mom? I've already used Grimia's power to heal your wounds. If you're not dead, hurry over and help. Otherwise, I'll definitely tell my mom about what just happened. As soon as the words fell, a sword light suddenly struck. Belial's sword pierced into Sabo's chest. Seeing this scene, Jamie also released black magic toward his opponent. Sabo only felt the divine power around his body collapsing. That's right, Jamie's black magic had a god-slaying effect, which perfectly countered Sabo, who possessed divine nature. However, after one strike, everyone lay exhausted on the ground, but the wounded Sabo stood before Jamie. You almost killed me, now it's my turn, right? At the critical moment, it was the necklace around his neck that blocked this sword for him. That's right, this was the necklace his grandfather had given Jamie. It contained his grandmother's power. Not only was Jamie surprised, Sabo was even more bewildered. The power that came from the necklace just now had transported him thousands of miles away to the southern continent, and this was the sun god's territory. Seeing the surrounding environment clearly, Sabo fled in panic. If that guy discovered him, that would be trouble. But what he feared came to pass. A dark-skinned man appeared before Sabo. Our busy Lord Sabo can personally come here, may I hear your reason? Hearing this, Sabo looked panicked. The man blocking his path was the person he least wanted to see. The sun god sect's supreme priest and holy knight commander, Blazer. On the other side, the town that had ended the demon invasion incident returned to normal. At the archbishop's funeral, everyone looked sorrowful, but Jamie felt somewhat regretful. Such a powerful cleric, what a shame it would be if he could be refined into an undead. Good job, he really didn't want to waste anything. At this time, Ricky came to find Jamie, saying the goddess Paro wanted to meet him. Then the two walked down the stairs toward the temple's basement. This was the most primitive sanctuary, where Paro's statue sat in the center of holy water. As Ricky chanted the scriptures, the statue in the water transformed into Paro's physical form. I must first thank you. Thanks to you, the Zenith sect guys suffered heavy damage. You won't blame me for not helping you back then, will you? But even so, you should feel proud. because you've gained recognition from a god. Hearing this, Jamie nearly ground his back teeth to powder. Then he tentatively asked her several questions. Through their conversation, Jamie not only learned that she was unaware of his resurrection, but also found out about the current situation of the 12 gods. The current 12 gods are divided into several factions. Zenus, Lily, and Brahman are one group. Durian and Keharan are another group. Tendiris and Abella are a group. Jillian and Oberon are a group. Then Flame Emperor and Paro both act independently. This demon incident was actually orchestrated by Zenus to seize Paro's power. Jamie looked exasperated. What does your fighting have to do with me? Paro expressed that she wanted to ally with him. To gain Jamie's trust, she would give him a gift. However, what Jamie didn't expect was, the goddess's gift was to make him a saint of the divine sect. Not only could he enjoy archbishop-level treatment, but he could also be immune from religious persecution due to his sacred and inviolable power. Jamie never imagined he would be chosen by his former enemy from his past life. But under current circumstances, cooperation was undoubtedly the best choice, Goddess Paro told him. The history from 60,000 years ago has now been set with keywords. Anyone who mentions that incident will be known by the 12 gods, just like Garen back then, who discovered the world's secret. Then the dragon god Brahman sent his dragon children to eliminate him. Jamie knew that if he challenged the 12 gods using past methods, it would ultimately be useless. He had to find new ways to challenge them. Before going home, Jamie visited the storm sword Saint Belial. After surgery, his severed arm had been reattached, and it wouldn't be long before he could recover his former strength. During their conversation, they discussed the explorer Isis. Belial hoped Jamie could join him in seeking out this organization, knowing there were 9th-tier great mages who could teach him magic. Jamie calmly replied that 9th-tier mages were indeed impressive, but not out of his reach. He politely declined Belial because he had more important matters to attend to. After saying goodbye to Belial, the Wilton family also began their journey home. Accompanying them were Ricky and his sister, who were sent to the Paro Grand Cathedral for safety. The day after returning home, Jamie found his father, expressing that he wanted to learn swordsmanship from him. Hearing this news, his father was also stunned. "Aren't you going to practice magic anymore?" Jamie said he would study magic while also practicing swordsmanship. Seeing Jamie's determined gaze, his father confirmed this wasn't a momentary whim. So he refused him on the spot because in his view, swordsmanship and magic couldn't possibly be mastered together. More importantly, Jamie's attitude made him feel like he was looking down on swordsmanship. He picked up a wooden sword, saying that next he wouldn't use his aura. If Jamie could block one of his strikes, then he would agree to let him practice swordsmanship. Feeling the oppressive aura from his father, Jamie also became serious. Blocking a sword saint's strike was indeed difficult, but if it was just destroying the wooden sword in his opponent's hand, that would be much easier for Jamie, especially with Blake helping him cheat from behind. So with Blake's assistance, Jamie used Destruction Hand to shatter the sword in his father's hand. This strike immediately amazed his father, who excitedly asked Jamie how he learned this move. Jamie said it was self-taught. Hearing this, Wilton finally understood what Linmore had meant back then. When it comes to magic, this child doesn't need a teacher. Since you want to learn the sword, then starting tomorrow, meet here at 6 a.m. Getting his father's permission, Jamie was thrilled. Meanwhile, in a carriage not far from the Earl's manor, a girl was gently caressing the car window, gazing into the distance. "Jamie, I can't wait to see you." At 5:30 in the morning, Jamie arrived at the training ground, but waiting for him wasn't his father. "Young master, from today on, this old servant will be responsible for your daily training." The man's name was Orlando, deputy captain of the Earl's Guard and also a swordsmanship expert. Seeing him, Jamie felt somewhat awkward. Come on, how could a swordsmanship expert compare to his sword saint father? He smiled and asked why he didn't see his father. Upon hearing this, Orlando immediately saw through Jamie's little scheme. "Little guy, are you expecting the great sword saint to teach you? Today's training doesn't need wooden swords. From now on, the young master needs to go to the field and run." Hearing this, Jamie immediately deflated. "Please, I came to learn swords, not to run." Before Jamie could finish complaining, Orlando sternly interrupted him. "Hurry up and run." Watching his son running on the field, Wilton showed a gratified expression. Just like that, over 5 hours passed, and Jamie was still running under the blazing sun. This perseverance and stamina amazed even instructor Orlando. He quickly called Jamie to stop, saying today's training was over. Hearing this, Jamie immediately collapsed from exhaustion. Even so, when his father heard about Jamie's performance, he was also surprised. When he was Jamie's age, his best record was only 3.5 hours. In the evening, he came to Jamie's room to check on his son. He thought that after his first run, he would be too tired to get out of bed. But surprisingly, he was full of energy. However, how could he know? The pearl of life within Jamie possessed rapid healing and recovery abilities. Looking at his son on the bed, Wilton felt proud from the bottom of his heart. "Your performance today was excellent. You can start using a sword tomorrow." Hearing this, Jamie was excited, but his father's next words made him feel speechless. "During this period, you'll first practice the basics with Uncle Orlando. If you can persevere, I'll teach you my true transmission, the void-breaking sword." Thinking of Orlando's stern face, Jamie wished he could die on the spot. These basic sword techniques wouldn't take 2.5 years to practice, would they? Born into a renowned swordsmanship family, Jamie had resources several times that of ordinary people. Not only that, he also used Grimia's space every night for additional intensive training. Jamie's progress made even instructor Orlando somewhat envious. Indeed, he was a person of exceptional talent. Originally planning to give him 2.5 years to build a solid foundation, it seems 3 months won't even be needed. Similarly, while Jamie swung his wooden sword, he was also silently contemplating how to merge magic with swordsmanship. This day he was practicing the basic sword forms as usual. Suddenly, a slight disturbance came from outside the training ground. Jamie thought there was an intruder and immediately used teleportation to pursue. But when he came outside, he discovered it was actually the girl he had met before. "Ash, why did you come to my house?" Ash looked reproachful. "Why do you always want to kill me every time you see me?" Jamie ignored her. He noticed that the elf on her had changed to a mid-level elf, so he asked what was going on. Speaking of this, Ash also looked proud. She told Jamie that her elf was now called Lee Peter, a mid-level elf that assists the Wind Elf King. And her sister was even more impressive, now able to summon high-level elves. Hearing this, Jamie was also surprised. Could it be because Rebecca was a reincarnated being that the Elf King cared for her so much? Meanwhile, Marquise Balin was chatting with Jamie's father. Besides their superior-subordinate relationship, they were also sworn brothers. This visit with his entire family wasn't simply to see Wilton. It also involved matters concerning the Zenith sect. After Wilton heard about what happened to Jamie and others at his grandfather's house, he began dispatching people to investigate. Especially the 6th Sword Saint Sabo, whose disappearance worried Wilton greatly. After all, he had defeated Belial. At dinner, both families sat together. Rebecca was like an unmarried daughter-in-law, her cheeks flushed, not daring to look directly at Jamie. Even her speech was stammering. Jamie looked bewildered. She seemed fine at the last gathering. How did she become like this after just a few days? Jamie didn't think much of it. The next day, he threw himself back into intensive training. What he didn't expect was that innocent girl had already given her heart to him. Jamie, who trained doubly hard every day, quickly mastered the basics of swordsmanship. And what he would learn next were the footwork techniques. Orlando told Jamie his grandfather was once the kingdom's, and even the world's recognized sword saint. For the family's development, he gave the footwork he created to the family's knights. This footwork was called Thousand Seas, which, as the name suggests, mimics the flow of the ocean. Looking at the chaotic footwork on the training ground, Jamie was deeply impressed. Orlando demonstrated to him that he needed to create resonance between the magic sigils underfoot and his movements. Only when magic power controlled space could one grasp the true meaning of Thousand Seas. This seemingly simple task took Jamie 4 hours without success. What made him even more frustrated was, Orlando told him before leaving that no knight in the Wilton family couldn't perform Thousand Seas. Just then, a water drop suddenly fell on his face. "Miss Rebecca, stop hiding, I can see you." That's right, the visitor was Rebecca, who had been secretly watching him. The smitten girl handed Jamie some water. Jamie drank refreshingly. He asked if she had something to tell him. Rebecca stammered, not knowing how to begin. Jamie suddenly brought his face close to hers. Rebecca's face turned red, and in her nervousness, she said she had been thinking about him. Jamie was instantly stunned. No way, this body is still just a child. Could it be because he was a reincarnated being? Not wanting the awkwardness to continue, Jamie quickly changed the subject. He said swordsmanship was boring and difficult to understand, not as easy as magic. Rebecca told him that, although she didn't understand swordsmanship, her water elf had just told her that his movements seemed like he was forcibly twisting his body. He should try letting his body flow with the current, like water flowing and wind moving. Rebecca's words gave Jamie some enlightenment. Indeed, swordsmanship was different from magic. Magic required learning to control it, while swordsmanship required giving your body to magic power, naturally flowing with it. Understanding this, Jamie instantly learned Thousand Seas. His light body danced on the training ground as Jamie tried concentrating magic power in his feet. At the same time, Rebecca's elf was observing Jamie from the spirit realm. Indeed, this world doesn't lack geniuses. Just as the elf was praising Jamie, a crisis suddenly erupted, and this crisis came from Jamie's feet where he had gathered magic power. Rebecca's elf immediately materialized, protecting her. After an explosion, the entire training ground collapsed. Jamie sighed deeply. "Oops, I didn't hold back just now, did I go a bit overboard?" His father, thinking there was an intruder, quickly ran into the training ground. Learning that the commotion was caused by his son releasing Thousand Seas, Wilton was both excited and surprised. He asked Jamie how he did it. The training ground was built with special alloy that could withstand sword energy, and Thousand Seas was just footwork with no destructive power. Jamie said he had simply lightly merged magic with the footwork. His father was immediately stunned. Thousand Seas itself was already a highly refined footwork technique. Even he couldn't develop it further. Now his son had merged it with magic and developed it into an offensive skill. Could Jamie really be someone chosen by both magic and swordsmanship? Just as Wilton was internally excited, Orlando stepped forward to congratulate Jamie. "I have nothing left to teach. Please let Lord Earl teach the young master the void-breaking sword." Jamie was also surprised. "I'm already learning advanced sword techniques? I just learned the basics." His father told him that just with a Thousand Seas footwork, only 2 or 3 out of 10 people in the Night Order could master it. Jamie's face darkened. "Didn't you say no one in the Night Order couldn't do Thousand Seas?" Orlando quickly explained that those who couldn't learn it had voluntarily left the Night Order. That evening, the Earl's Manor held a grand banquet. Of course, it wasn't to celebrate Jamie completing his basic training, but because Jamie's father was preparing for the war that was about to break out. The Zenith Divine sect had seriously threatened every noble. Even Earl Simon had joined Jamie's father's resistance team. Just as Jamie was alone contemplating this matter, Ash suddenly came over. When hearing Jamie ask about her sister, the straightforward Ash immediately asked if he liked her sister. Jamie's face darkened as he immediately denied it. Come on, having lived 60,000 years, how could he like little girls? At the very least, he'd have to wait until they grew up. Ash breathed a sigh of relief and said her sister was ill. After some hesitation, Jamie decided to go see for himself. But when he arrived at Rebecca's room, he discovered she was suffering from lovesickness. Jamie took her hand and said to speak freely. There were no outsiders here. Rebecca's cheeks flushed as she didn't know why she kept thinking of him. Jamie took a deep breath and said softly, Miss Rebecca, we won't see each other for a long time, but I won't forget you. Even after many years, I won't. So don't get lost in the present. Early the next morning, the Belai family boarded their carriage home. Before leaving, Jamie and Rebecca agreed to keep in touch through letters. Seeing the two chatting and laughing, his mother and father teased Jamie together, saying other people's daughters had been charmed by their son. Jamie looked exasperated. Come on, women would only slow down my sword-drawing speed. From summer to winter. After 4 months of practicing the void-breaking sword, Jamie finally executed it for the first time. This scene surprised even his father. You must know that with the void-breaking sword technique, mastering the basics was the hardest part. He had practiced for 2.5 years to build a solid foundation, yet his son only needed 4 months. He told Jamie that from this moment on, he could graduate. The void-breaking sword cuts through nothingness. Once you master the basics, what follows is enlightenment through battle. This sword has no techniques, only forms. The higher the realm, the larger the form. Once truly comprehended, even non-material things can be severed. Just as his father was patiently explaining to Jamie, a subordinate suddenly approached to report that they had a visitor, Siegfried, the 7th elder of the magic world. Jamie also knew about this person. He was a genius magician before him, born a slave who reached the 6th tier at 15. At 22, he reached the 7th tier, becoming the youngest elder. Now he was 30, and he had touched the threshold of the 8th tier. He was an absolute genius in the magic world, but even such a genius didn't receive a warm welcome from his father, who knew he had come to take Jamie to the magic world, so he immediately laid his cards on the table. The magic world's power was divided into 3 factions. Grand Elder Ofen leading the Royalist faction, 2nd Elder Linmore leading the Noble faction, and 5th Elder Luke leading the Equality faction. The current magic world had become a dirty place of power and political struggle. He didn't want to send his son to such a place. Seeing Wilton's expression, Siegfried also stopped being cheerful. He said that although the magic world had no normal people, they wouldn't harm their own. Of course, from a father's perspective, if it were him, he wouldn't send his child to the magic world either. But the magic world possessed immeasurable knowledge, especially the crown of omniscience. Just wearing the crown could elevate one's realm to another level. It was the core artifact of the magic world that contained all knowledge. If Jamie went with him, he could get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to use the crown of omniscience. Hearing this, Wilton didn't dare make the decision alone, as it concerned his son's future. He needed to ask Jamie, who knew Jamie agreed without hesitation, not because he coveted that magical knowledge, but because he wanted to use the crown of omniscience to understand the truth of that lost history. Since his resurrection, he had noticed that part of his memories were missing, so this trip was necessary. However, the conditions needed to be modified. He found Siegfried and got straight to the point. Taking him to the magic world was nothing more than wanting to pull him into his own faction. After all, a genius youth who could become a 9th-tier mage in the future could completely cause the other 2 factions to fall apart. So if he wanted him to join his faction, he needed to show full sincerity. Siegfried looked exasperated. Oh my god, Teacher Linmore never told me this kid was such a ruthless character. To find the missing history from the Crown of Omniscience, Jamie agreed to the invitation to the magic world. This time he only brought Vina with him. But before going to the magic world, Siegfried had to make a trip to the magic stone city, Saint Germain. Saint Germain was a town with the largest magic stone mines in the Selden Kingdom, where the magic stone market was very prosperous. On the way, when they passed through the Helton Mountains, Jamie noticed the area was completely desolate. He curiously asked Siegfried what had happened, since he'd heard this was the center of southern power when he came. Siegfried smiled and explained to him that this was called the Mother River of the South. The minerals buried here fed 6 territories. Legend had it that 1,000 years ago there was a constantly erupting great volcano here, with lava threatening to submerge entire villages at any time, yet people had no way to deal with it. Then one day, a mysterious mage appeared and entered the volcano alone. In just one day, he sealed the volcano's mouth. Before leaving, he left people with one sentence, saying that when the monster awakens, disaster will begin again. From then on, people gradually moved away, which is how it became like this. Jamie looked exasperated. A volcano plus a monster, are you telling children's stories? Just as the two were chatting and traveling, 3 arrows had quietly aimed at them both. Sensing the danger from behind, Siegfried shouted a warning. Jamie jumped up on the spot. The arrow struck horizontally in front of him. The next second, curses came from a gleaming mountaintop. Siegfried, you bastard, I'm here to avenge my brother. Jamie looked speechless. Damn it, why are you shooting at me when your enemy is him? Siegfried was about to strike back, but on second thought, he decided to use this opportunity to test Jamie's capabilities. As the 7th elder of the magic world, letting a kid clean up your mess, aren't you embarrassed? Though he said this, Jamie still gripped the sword at his waist. Perfect. I haven't used swordsmanship in actual combat yet. Today I'll practice on these unlucky fools. The minions shouted and swarmed forward. The moment Jamie drew his sword, the surrounding space came under his control. This scene truly startled Siegfried. Jamie raised his magic sword high. The Wilton family's white sea steps were infused with his magic power, integrated into the magic sword. Accompanied by Jamie's explosive shout, a pressure like a great mountain fell upon the minions. With just one strike, it made them tremble all over, unable to stand. But despite this, he still refused to submit. Forcing himself to endure his body's discomfort, he had just managed to get back up. Jamie swung his sword again. Sword energy wrapped in thunder power swept out like ocean waves. The minions were completely wiped out on the spot. No need to test anymore. Can we go now? Watching Jamie's composed manner, Siegfried sighed with genuine admiration. This is a true magic swordsman. I believe in less than 10 years, no one on the entire continent will be able to become his opponent. Siegfried came to Saint-Germain, and the first thing he did was visit the little broken house. However, the transaction between the two wasn't going smoothly. The other party indicated that she needed Siegfried to help her obtain the Shadow Sheep's heart at the auction, the day after tomorrow, before she would agree to the previous transaction. The Shadow Sheep's heart is a rare alchemical material. Although Siegfried felt somewhat annoyed, he still agreed. Leaving the little broken house, Jamie asked curiously, what exactly is this transaction that makes Siegfried pay such a high price? Also, who is that old lady? Siegfried didn't reveal the content of the transaction, but he told Jamie about the old lady's identity. Lady Curiel is the greatest alchemist. She has branches all over the world, and these branches are all connected by spatial tunnels she created. At the same time, she's also an 8th-tier mage who doesn't belong to any country. Hearing Siegfried's explanation, Jamie was also quite surprised. Meanwhile, in a dim alley, a group of people with unknown identities were discussing the auction the day after tomorrow. It seemed that something extraordinary would appear there. At night, Jamie came to the street alone. He released Vina from the grimoire space, planning to let her get some fresh air. Suddenly, a group of workers transporting low-grade magic stones caught Vina's attention. Jamie didn't want to explain to her what was so surprising about a magic stone city transporting magic stones, but just then, his bracelet suddenly reacted. Jamie's heart jumped. Thinking of the boxes Vina had mentioned before, he immediately examined them carefully, and what he saw shocked him. A box containing low-grade magic stones actually had 6 sealing spells on it. Could what could penetrate the seals and trigger his bracelet's reaction be one of his 3 divine artifacts? Thinking of this, Jamie immediately followed them, discovering that these boxes were all items for the day after tomorrow's auction. It seemed that if he wanted to avoid causing a commotion, he needed to get some funds. Then he came to Curiel's little broken house, and when she heard Jamie asking to borrow money right away, Curiel nearly fainted on the spot. Just as she was about to drive Jamie away, Jamie suddenly spoke. Don't you want to enter the shadow world? Hearing this, Curiel paused. How do you know? Jamie showed a triumphant smile. Although few people know this, the Shadow Sheep's heart is one of the materials for opening the gate to the shadow world, isn't it? The master there is the dark elf King Bemslow. As far as I know, you can only enter with his permission. Just collecting materials isn't enough. However, I can write soul contracts. Soul contracts are dangerous contracts that use the contractor's soul as collateral. Even mortgaging matters after death. Jamie was well aware of the consequences and dangers involved, but this was currently his only way to get money. Curiel pondered for a moment, then said quietly, what are the conditions? Payment first, goods later. At the Saint-Germain auction, Jamie and Siegfried put on masks and entered the venue early. As the first auction item appeared on the auction floor, everyone became excited. On stage was actually a pair of elf siblings who could serve as slaves or playthings. Even though they were all wearing masks, Jamie could still feel Siegfried's anger. After all, he was also born a slave, so he probably had the same feelings as that pair of elf siblings. Soon the siblings were sold for 3 million. What surprised Jamie was that the group who bought them actually had the aura of elves. Afterward, items were put on stage one by one. Jamie and Siegfried never raised their paddles, since their target was the Shadow Sheep's heart. Finally, when the auction was nearing its end, the heart was brought up. As the first bid of 10 million was called out, the entire venue fell into a frenzy. Just when the price had soared to 40 million, Siegfried raised his number paddle for the first time. I bid 100 million. This shout even startled Jamie. Knowing that his family territory's annual management fee was just this amount, yet Siegfried didn't even blink before calling it out. This outrageous price naturally had no one willing to bid higher. The Shadow Sheep's heart was thus acquired. The next auction item was the divine artifact Jamie had been longing for. But when he heard the host's introduction, he nearly fainted on the spot. His divine artifact for fighting against the 12 gods was being treated as a stone for charging territories. But this was actually good. It made it convenient for him to pick up a bargain. However, when the host had just announced the start of bidding, a pink-haired girl opened with 800 million. This move immediately caused a commotion throughout the venue. This is hilarious. Someone actually spent 800 million on a broken stone. Even Siegfried couldn't help but laugh out loud. Jamie's face darkened. Damn it. That girl was Vina, whom he had arranged in advance. This girl really knew how to save him money. Fortunately, the item was acquired, and since they had gotten what they came for, there was no need to stay. Just as Siegfried and Jamie were about to go backstage to collect their items, The final auction item was brought onto the stage. Jamie was stunned for a moment. There were actually traces of ancient language on it. But before he could react, the auction house suddenly lost power. When the auction house returned to normal, staff members shouted anxiously, "All items have been stolen." At the same time, a group of elves were cursing the auction house people in an alley. That's right, these people were the same elves from the auction house earlier. They had bought the people and stolen the items, and they were also the mysterious people who had been discussing the auction in the alley before. But just as they were about to leave, Jamie's angry voice came from behind them. "You guys are really bold, daring to touch my things. While I haven't taken your little lives yet, quickly hand over the items." When they saw the furious Jamie, several elves thought he was from the auction house. They immediately released elf magic to counterattack. But how could their attacks match those of two magical geniuses? Jamie was already in a bad mood. The magic he released was both fast and ruthless. He looked mockingly at those blocking his way. "Heh, a bunch of weaklings dare to touch my things. Today I'll use your lives to calm my mood." Torturous spells were imposed on the three elves. Their life and death were in Jamie's hands. Just at this critical moment, the sound of a bell rang out. The spells on the three elves were instantly broken. Jamie looked closely. The newcomer was a black-haired boy holding a staff. He smiled at Jamie. "How about we negotiate? Whatever you want, we'll return it to you." Siegfried spoke first. "We only want the Shadow Sheep's heart." But as soon as he finished speaking, Jamie interrupted him. "And the omnipotent stone." Siegfried was confused. "We didn't buy that." Jamie looked embarrassed. "I'll explain when we get back." The elves were also quite straightforward, immediately taking out the items, since Jamie's belongings weren't their target anyway. Jamie stepped forward to examine the divine artifact, but just then, his hair accidentally slipped out. "Emerald-colored hair? You're Jamie Wilton?" Just as Belial described. Jamie looked surprised. "Are you familiar with Belial?" The man grinned. "Of course, we're both pioneers." Hearing the word pioneers, Siegfried immediately became angry. He quickly stepped in front of Jamie, indicating that these people were dangerous. According to intelligence, rebels were attempting to overthrow the Hamnia kingdom in the western continent, and the pioneers were their leaders. Regarding this matter, Jamie also had some impression. "Oh no, the Hamnia kingdom seems to have rebellion due to corruption issues. Could the pioneers really be their leaders?" The man chuckled, hoping Siegfried would listen to his explanation, just in a different location, otherwise it would be troublesome when the auction house people came after them. Meanwhile, the auction house owner was raging at a little black figure. "You can't even catch one intruder. What am I paying you for?" The little black figure turned around and said calmly, "Don't worry, none of those people will escape." At the same time, Jamie and the others used teleportation magic to arrive at a valley. Siegfried questioned the other party, a group of rebels coming to Selden. "Are you planning to do the same thing?" The man chuckled, expressing that they weren't rebels at all. "We just liberated everyone. Besides, Belial is a cadre in our organization. How could we possibly destroy his hometown? The reason we came here is to find the key to seal the volcano." "That's right, it was the last auction item with Guyu's writing on it," the man explained to the two. "Long ago, the pioneers sealed a monster under the volcano. This is the key to unsealing the monster behemoth." Hearing this, Jamie was stunned on the spot. 60,000 years ago, to fight against the 12 gods, he had created 3 great demons. They were the support mage Blake, Jormungandr who ruled the seas, and the giant beast Behemoth. He had originally thought they all died after his defeat, but unexpectedly he heard news of them here. Suddenly, a sound like thunder descended from the sky. "Little thieves, so you're here. Haha, this is an incredibly powerful man." Although blind, he had defeated 2 great sword saints. He was known as the Dark Overlord Darius, with iron fists like the Roman earth. The group of elf thieves were nothing but weaklings in his eyes. He knocked them down with just a few punches. The black-haired young man gripped his staff tightly. Golden energy burst forth from the bell. Darius leaped up from the ground, but at this moment the black-haired young man had already moved behind him. 3 bell strikes shot out, heading directly toward his opponent. A nuclear explosion sound echoed through heaven and earth. That strike had actually created spatial tremors. Jamie looked shocked. Are all the pioneers this powerful? But before the smoke had cleared, Darius's mocking laughter could be heard. "Among everyone present, only you have some strength, but in my view, you're still trash." Although the black-haired young man wasn't injured yet, Siegfried in the distance had already sensed something was wrong. "Let's join the fight too. At least we can make the pioneers owe us a favor." Jamie smiled slightly. Fighting against strong opponents really gets the blood pumping. Grimoire was summoned by him, and with a flash of light, everyone present entered the space Jamie had created. Darius frowned, staring at Jamie with those unseeing eyes. "Space magic? Is this a freely transformable construct?" Knowing this place was disadvantageous to him, Darius launched an attack toward the back row first. But Siegfried was no rookie warrior. Golden shadowless spears struck toward his opponent. Combined with his subjective magic spatial coordinate manipulation, Siegfried not only dodged the opponent's fist, but even managed to hit his kidneys. Just then, Jamie shouted loudly. The construct around Darius instantly changed. That's right, when Jamie heard the opponent was blind, he knew he relied on perception to lock onto enemies. If he were thrown into a room where the construct could be changed at will, it would definitely affect him. Darius was furious. "A little brat dares to set a trap for me." He angrily threw a punch at Jamie. However, Jamie didn't even dodge. He let the fist hit his head. Hee, why is your fist so soft? This was entirely due to the omnipotent stone's effect. It was a divine artifact that could reduce physical attacks to 0. Having neutralized Darius's attack, Jamie suddenly struck with a void-severing sword. Blood spurted from Darius's waist. Jamie frowned. Seems I didn't stab deep enough. Thousand Seas was infused into the sword blade. Jamie struck again. But the next second, Jamie's sword was caught bare-handed by his opponent. Alright, the battle ends here. With that said, Darius suddenly stomped his foot. Jamie's constructed space instantly collapsed. Just using physical attacks to dispel grimoire, this damn thing is a monster. Heh, I didn't expect to meet you this way, Jamie Wilton. I'm a friend of your grandfather Serval. When everyone heard that Darius was Jamie's grandfather's friend, they all looked completely bewildered. It turned out that 10 years ago, Darius had met Jamie's grandfather in a small tavern. The aura of strong warriors attracted each other. From then on, the two often sparred with each other to improve their skills. But every time they practiced, Jamie's grandfather would hold back one move, saying that technique was reserved for his grandson. Darius was unwilling and kept begging the other party to show him. Finally, under his persistent requests, Jamie's grandfather demonstrated that move, and he said that if there was a chance, he would definitely teach it to his grandson. That move was called Swift/Style Cleave. Darius just mimicked it once, and a huge crack appeared in the void. This scene shocked everyone present. Darius told Jamie. His grandfather had become a grand master with this move, and so far no second person had reached such a level. Although Darius's demonstration didn't directly teach Jamie, he understood one principle from his words. That is, if he continued on the path of swordsmanship, he would eventually touch his grandfather's realm. In fighting against the 12 gods, he would have one more trump card. Darius left, and for Jamie's grandfather's sake, he took no one with him. Jamie didn't waste time pretending to heal the injured elves, and secretly brainwashing them, making them take him to see Behemoth. But just then, a cry for help came from one elf's crystal ball. It turned out that when they were stealing things, someone else had gone to rescue those slave elves. What made Jamie speechless was that he actually heard Vina's voice from the crystal ball. It turned out that a few hours ago, when Vina came out of the auction house, the ring on her hand kept reminding her that the elf slaves hadn't been rescued yet. As a high elf Valkyrie, Vina naturally wouldn't stand by and watch. When she went to the dungeon to rescue them, she encountered a girl with unknown liquid on her face. The liquid was shot by the hellhound guarding the dungeon. Vina intervened to save her. Later she learned that she was also there to rescue the elf slaves, so the two began to cooperate. But just as they were breaking the prison seals, the auction house people discovered them. At this critical moment, an explosion suddenly rang out. Jamie made his shining entrance. The auction house people panicked, but the next second he recognized Jamie. You're the eldest son of the Wilton family. Jamie smiled wickedly. Looks like you have good eyesight in that case. Then become Leviathan's nourishment. After unsealing the volcano's seal, everyone present looked bewildered. Is this little thing what our ancestors wanted us to find? The black-haired young man spoke weakly. We came seeking help according to our ancestors' contract. Behemoth asked them, is today the day of oath? Everyone looked confused. You can only wake me on the day of oath after 66,666 years. You know nothing, are you idiots? Just then, Jamie's voice rang in its mind. Long time no see, Behemoth. Hearing its master's voice, Behemoth immediately shed tears. Although the master's body had become smaller, his aura hadn't changed at all. Just as Behemoth was about to speak, Jamie immediately interrupted him with telepathy. Don't give it away. Cooperate with me. I'll come find you tonight when no one's around. With that, Jamie turned and left with Siegfried. Behemoth watched his master leave, his heart filled with excitement. Meanwhile, Vina was alone in her room, torn with indecision. Ever since rescuing those elves last time, she had been recognized by them. Valkyries were high elves among the elf race, and they hoped Vina could go back with them, because there was her home. But Vina couldn't bear to leave Jamie. Just as she was struggling alone, Jamie pushed the door open. He told Vina that from today on, she didn't need to follow him. Vina was stunned. Am I being abandoned? Just as she was about to beg Jamie not to leave her alone, Jamie spoke up. I'm just asking you to go back with the elves for a while. Don't worry, I'll keep your position for you. This time, just go find your Valkyrie power with peace of mind. After Jamie left, Vina cried her heart out. Don't worry, master. I definitely won't let you down. Finally, evening arrived. Jamie found Behemoth and asked what had happened during this time. Behemoth explained to him. Back then, master had us 3 demons stay behind while you fought the 12 gods alone. Within a few days, we lost contact with master. The clever Jormungandr said master would definitely return, so he told everyone to temporarily avoid the 12 gods. Behemoth hid at the bottom of the volcano, but longing for master made him suffer daily. Until one day, an elf found him, saying he would seal him and help relieve his love sickness, but the agreement was that he would help the pioneers in the future. So he fell asleep, and his body also became smaller during this period. Hearing this, Jamie also released Blake. Of his 3 former subordinates, only Jormungandr remained. He told Behemoth, next, I have a mission for you. Follow the pioneers to learn about this person Iris, and that guy called Vina will also go with you. You must take good care of her on the road, because she's also my subordinate. That's right. He wanted to make Vina stronger, strong enough to become his backup. Before leaving Saint Germain, Siegfried brought Jamie to complete the transaction with Kiriel. It wasn't until she brought out the item that Jamie learned what Siegfried wanted was an eternal fragment. This was a meteorite fragment that crossed the continent every 100 years, containing magic power equivalent to 2,000 times that found in nature. Jamie curiously asked what this thing was for. Siegfried said cheekily, "That's all a secret." Jamie looked speechless. Just then Kiriel said, "You can get lost too. Next I have business to discuss with my little customer." Siegfried looked bewildered. "Did you two hook up?" Jamie replied just as cheekily. She said, "That's also a secret." Afterward, Kiriel brought Jamie to an altar. With the chanting of incantations, a void portal appeared above the altar. Just as Kiriel was excitedly about to step into the portal, Jamie suddenly stopped her. He hadn't used the 800 million from Heaven and Earth Bank from the auction, and wanted to return it to her. After all, they had signed a soul contract for this money. Jamie didn't want the rest of his life bound by this contract. As long as he returned the money, the contract would be void. Also, before Kiriel entered, he needed to get permission from the Shadow World's master. He asked Kiriel to wait outside for a moment. He stepped into the void portal himself. The moment Jamie entered the door, a woman suddenly descended into the void. This person was the Dark Elf King Bemslow. Heh, long time no see, Diabolo. Has your body shrunk? 60,000 years ago, Bemslow had secretly helped him because she admired Jamie's feat of challenging the 12 gods. It was precisely because of her help that Jamie was able to create black magic power with god-killing effects. Jamie said, "I'm not here to joke with you this time, but I need help. There's someone outside who wants to enter the Shadow World. I came to give you a heads up." Just like that, Jamie solved with one sentence the problem that had troubled Kiriel for decades. Before entering the portal, Kiriel gave Jamie a weapon, Beyond Avalon. This was a magic staff made from magic crystals from Lake Talinki. Lake Talinki was one of the world's 6 forbidden zones. The poisonous lake water contained powerful magic. Just from this point, Jamie could guess the value of this weapon. Kiriel said, "My son was around your age. Unfortunately, he died young. This trip to the Shadow World is also to see him one more time." Since Jamie helped him fulfill his wish, she wouldn't be stingy. Watching her retreating figure, Jamie felt melancholy. She was well aware that what was seen in the Shadow World was just an illusion of the dead. He hoped that place could become Kiriel's eternal solace. Speaking of Jamie, after finishing business in Saint Germain with Siegfried, he returned to the magic realm. This was a town full of magical elements, and magical technology was also among the most advanced on the continent. Siegfried said he had matters to report to other elders, letting Jamie wander around the city alone first. Jamie, wandering by himself, was suddenly grabbed by the shoulder by a girl. The girl's name was Mel, a student at Phoenix Academy. Today was the first day of school. Seeing Jamie wandering alone, she thought he was a new student who couldn't find the school. So she grabbed him and ran toward the school. Jamie looked speechless. Although going to see the school wasn't a problem, how did such a foolish child manage to get into the school? Being dragged all the way, Jamie was too lazy to explain to her. Just then, a trembling voice suddenly came. "You? How are you here?" The voice came from the second son of the Simon family, Reynold. Ever since being taught a lesson last time, Jamie had become his nightmare. Now what was he doing at school? Continuing to give him nightmares? However, Jamie had long forgotten about him. "Who the hell are you?" Reynolds stammered out his name. Only then did Jamie react. "Oh, it's that insolent child. But it looks like you've reached 3rd tier. You do have some talent." Reynolds asked, somewhat surprised, if Jamie had also enrolled. Before Jamie could answer, Siegfried discovered him. "Jamie, how did you get here? The elders are all waiting for you. Come with me quickly." Saying this, ignoring the student's surprise, he pulled Jamie away using teleportation magic. At this time, in the Central Magic Tower's conference room, all 6 elders had gathered. When Jamie stepped into the room, everyone looked surprised. He's actually reached 6th tier level. Linmore showed a satisfied smile, indeed gifted, to have grown to this extent in such a short time. Similarly, when Jamie saw the elders, he also marveled at everyone's strength. Except for the 3rd elder, who had a dark expression, because like himself, he was also a 6th tier mage. After some false pleasantries, the Grand Elder expressed that talent like Jamie's must be put to good use, so he hoped Jamie could serve as a temporary teacher for a month. Jamie was stunned on the spot, but reality left him unable to argue. Because except for Siegfried, all other elders voted unanimously in favor. On the way back, Jamie felt depressed. "Damn it, I once swore never to take disciples again. I hope this month doesn't cause me any trouble." Jamie's appearance caused quite a stir among the teachers. The 8-year-old Jamie had long become a celebrity in the magic realm. Gifted magical genius, mysterious saint of goddess, paro noble young master of the Wilton family. Any one of these titles was enviable. Following procedure, Jamie chose magic circles as his teaching content. But on the first day of class, he encountered unpleasant things. Not only were the students in the classroom chaotic, even his predecessor was petty-minded. Kenya was a 5th tier magic circle instructor, also a disciple of the 3rd elder. Jamie's replacement made him extremely upset. He didn't believe an 8-year-old brat could be stronger than him, especially since magic circles were his most proficient magic. The new instructor had to complete the first class together with the previous instructor. So from the beginning, Kenya was targeting Jamie. On the surface, he was releasing magic circles to explain basic knowledge to students. But actually, he was using the teaching to pose a century-old problem to Jamie. Jamie looked speechless. I was playing with magic when you were still a tadpole. Since that's how it is, let me show you what real magic is. The magic circle Jamie drew looked difficult but was actually quite simple. Although it looked identical to Kenya's from the front, it contained hidden mechanisms. Kenya's magic circle was drawn stroke by stroke and required multiple modifications before it could be used, while Jamie's magic circle was like layers that could be freely stacked and combined, and positions could be adjusted. This completely broke the basic extension methods of magic circles. Seeing this, Kenya trembled with excitement. This is completely a discovery that overturns the academy. However, this was as simple as urinating for Jamie. Adjusting positions is just basic operation. The really impressive part is that it can turn magic circles into 3D, three-dimensional shapes, and extend infinitely. This magic is called multi-layer composite three-dimensional magic circle. It's also the magic he learned before studying black magic 60,000 years ago. Looking at the dazed Kenya, Jamie said calmly, "How about it?" Then he put away the magic circle and turned to look at the students below. "You can just feast your eyes on this stuff. For this class, you should first familiarize yourselves with the layer concept." Reynold below no longer had his initial arrogance. Jamie's strength completely overturned his understanding. Not just him, the other troublemakers had also become well-behaved. After class, Kenya hurried back to his room. He couldn't wait to go back and digest the knowledge from the classroom. Just then, Mel suddenly found Jamie. She wanted Jamie to see if there was something wrong with the magic circle she had learned. With just simple operations, a three-dimensional figure appeared in her palm. Seeing this, Jamie looked shocked. Three-dimensional magic circle? She just watched me demonstrate once to the students and she copied it. Although it's not perfect yet, this is enough to prove she's a genius. Looks like I need to find Siegfried to properly understand this girl. When Jamie discovered that Mel could release three-dimensional magic circles, he became suspicious. Even he could see the scholarly talent in her. The other teachers at the academy shouldn't have failed to notice. He found Siegfried to ask what was going on. Speaking of Mel, Siegfried also felt regretful. Mel has strong insight but lacks magical talent. He once advised her to become a magical scholar, but she insisted on becoming a mage. But none of the school's teachers accepted her as a disciple, because without talent there's no possibility for development. The magic realm is the core fighting force of the Selden Kingdom. The school cannot invest in students without clear development prospects. Hearing this, Jamie didn't argue and turned to leave. Siegfried smiled and suggested that if he truly cared about this girl, he might as well take her as his disciple himself. Jamie didn't even turn around and directly refused. Coming outside the building, Jamie fell into a state of confusion. In his previous life, on the day he lost all his disciples, he had sworn an oath that he would never take on disciples again. Since Mel was so intelligent, surely she would be able to find her own path. Just like that, a week passed, and Jamie no longer focused his attention on her. On this day, while he was in the school courtyard, he discovered Mel sitting alone looking dejected. It turned out that in the magic test that had just ended, Mel's results were exactly the same as last year's, which meant she had wasted another year of studying. Jamie had originally already left, but his body unconsciously walked back. He inquired whether she had any troubles. Mel told him about the test results. She informed Jamie that although she had no magical talent, she wouldn't give up. She was determined to become a great magician and revive her family. Her perseverance moved Jamie as well. Perhaps the story from his previous life would replay itself in the future, but giving her one chance shouldn't be too much to ask. Jamie turned to leave. Before departing, he dropped a line. "If you have the confidence to maintain this persistence, then come find me at the faculty office tomorrow." Afterward, Jamie went alone to the school's blue magic tower. Linmore's research lab was at the top of this tower. Jamie came to find him to gain authorization to teach the full-body breathing method. After all, it was originally Linmore who created the spell and taught it to him. If he wanted to continue passing down this spell, he must obtain the other's authorization. When Linmore heard that Jamie wanted to teach the spell to Mel, he immediately refused because that child, in his eyes, simply wasn't worth cultivating. You must know that back then he had such high hopes for Jamie, yet even now he was merely a 6th-tier mage. Breaking through to become a 7th-tier mage's magical subjective wasn't so easy to comprehend. He didn't believe that Mel, who lacked talent, could achieve this. Jamie chuckled and indicated that he could do it, and his magical subjective had already been completed. But he wasn't satisfied with it, so he wanted to create a new one. After all, relying solely on the multiple compound three-dimensional magic arrays used in his previous life wasn't enough. Defeating the 12 gods required even more powerful strength. Upon hearing that Jamie wanted to create 2 magical subjectives, Linmore was also shocked. You must know that even dragons couldn't achieve this level. However, the confidence Jamie displayed made him feel the other wasn't joking. After pondering for a moment, Linmore suddenly grinned. "Since you're so confident, then come spar with me. If you can satisfy me, I'll give you the right to teach the breathing method." To obtain authorization for the breathing method inheritance, Jamie agreed to Linmore's sparring request. As the elder, Linmore indicated he'd let Jamie attack first. Jamie grinned. "You'd better not regret this." The Wilton family's Thousand Seas step technique was unleashed, and magical power spread wildly from beneath his feet. In just an instant, Jamie flashed to Linmore's side. The speed was so fast that even Linmore was amazed, though he didn't care, because this kind of skill, in his view, couldn't even break through his defensive net. While deploying Thousand Seas, Jamie used Destruction Hand. With one strike, Linmore's shield immediately showed cracks. But as an 8th tier mage, this kind of move couldn't trouble him at all. The barrier was repaired in just a thought. Jamie frowned. This old guy recovers pretty fast. Blake assisted from the astral world. The next second, 4 Jamies appeared simultaneously. They each cast different lethal magic spells attacking the opponent. Violent explosions rang out in the room. Linmore's bladder tightened, and the shield showed cracks again. Jamie raised his magic sword high and swung it forcefully. Linmore's barrier instantly crumbled. Although this strike was tremendously powerful, it consumed a large amount of Jamie's magic power. The close-range magic completed using clones and teleportation was called instant efficiency. But even such a powerful strike left Linmore completely unharmed. The only injured part was merely his cloak. That last strike was quite painful, but now it's my turn, isn't it? Looking at Linmore, whose magical power was surging throughout his body, Jamie's eyes turned cold. Looks like I'll have to bring that out. Come out, Avalon. Seeing the weapon in Jamie's hand, Linmore looked shocked. Good job, that old hag wouldn't even sell it to me, yet she gave it to Jamie. Jamie chuckled. Cut the chatter and make your move. A golden tornado was summoned. Linmore struck Jamie with a powerful blow. However, Jamie, wielding Avalon, wasn't afraid at all. This weapon possessed the ability to exist simultaneously in reality and the reverse world. The mighty tornado was instantly dissolved by the weapon. Jamie moved with agility, quickly reaching Linmore's front. The magic sword in his hand slashed fiercely downward at his opponent. Linmore looked excited. Good boy, you've got some skills. The golden shield repelled Jamie backward. Are you testing my magical subjective? Since that's the case, then as you wish. But you'd better be prepared, because my magical subjective is mental type. Cognitive dissonance. How could a 6th tier mage escape the mental control of an 8th tier grand mage? Linmore's subjective magic, cognitive dissonance, hit Jamie. This seemingly disastrous magic was actually mental type magic that invaded the brain. If one wasn't a mental specialist, they could probably only struggle. But the current problem was that with Jamie's present realm, he also couldn't break free from this magic. Looks like I'll have to borrow Leviathan's power. Jamie stamped his foot forcefully. Absorb it all for me. At this moment, Linmore was quietly watching the dazed Jamie. Having been hit by his cognitive dissonance, he was probably struggling in the astral world. Just as Linmore was about to withdraw his magic, a sword cry echoed throughout the room. Jamie, holding sword in one hand and staff in the other, shattered Linmore's mental control. A horizontal slash struck out fiercely. Linmore was completely stunned. After the explosion, Linmore quickly ran to Jamie's side. You little rascal, hit it quite deep. How did you do that just now? Jamie immediately became theatrical. I don't know. To eliminate the illusion, I absorbed magical power, and then somehow, the Grand Mage's power merged with the magic sword. Linmore looked shocked. So it was all coincidence. Jamie kept a straight face and said nothing. Coincidence was what low-level people did. Just now, using Leviathan, he had fused Linmore's magical subjective into the magic sword. Perhaps this was his second magical subjective. After one sparring session, Linmore was in great spirits. He agreed to authorize Jamie to teach the breathing method. That night, Raymond came to Linmore's room. He had witnessed everything that happened during the day. Jamie could not only fuse sword and magic together, but had even reversed the magical subjective. Even grand mages would find this difficult to achieve. Linmore looked out the window and spoke calmly. That's right. What's certain is that he's indeed an unprecedented genius. No, I'm not saying this for that reason. Jamie possesses magical strength and swordsmanship that can rival grand mages. And he's also been chosen by Pyro. Can one person really possess so many abilities simultaneously? I feel like he's been deliberately crafted for some other purpose. Shut up. Raymond's words were cut off before he could finish. There are ears everywhere here. Let's continue observing for now. Let's see if that child can truly change this world. When Reynolds heard Mel say that Jamie wanted to take her as his disciple, he immediately couldn't contain himself. Why should a waste like you get to become Jamie's disciple? Reynolds was furious and sought out Jamie that very night, hoping he would also take him as a disciple. Jamie looked exasperated. You have a 7th tier mage father you're not using, yet you come here to seek apprenticeship. If I agreed to you, that would be somewhat shameless of me. When Reynolds heard his refusal, he immediately threw a tantrum on the spot. Jamie was getting a headache, but then he reconsidered. This kid did have talent, and having him as an errand boy wouldn't be bad in the future. So he told Reynolds that regarding taking disciples, if Count Simon agreed, he had no problem with it. Reynolds was overjoyed. He rushed home that night to find his father. He thought this matter would require some effort on his part. But unexpectedly, Count Simon immediately agreed, because he had witnessed his son's growth. Previously, Reynolds had been an arrogant child, but now, in order to become stronger, he had actually learned to bow his head. The next day, Reynolds and Mel excitedly sought out Jamie. They thought they were now his disciples, but Jamie told them both that he wasn't ready to take them on yet, unless they passed his test. The test content was to learn the full body breathing method within one day. One was a youth with excellent magical talent but lacking insight and depth. The other was a girl born with scholarly ability but completely without magical talent. Jamie's heart was already filled with anticipation. Meanwhile, a potion called Apophis was selling hotly throughout the school. Rumor had it that drinking it could increase magical power absorption. Many students had already become addicted. What they didn't know was that this potion was produced to devour their bodies. And the culprit behind manufacturing the potion was none other than the Grudge Demon King clan. However, their real target wasn't these small fry, but Mel, who possessed scholarly talent. At this moment, Mel was unaware of these matters. She and Reynold were still in the space Jamie had created, learning the full body breathing method. But after 24 hours had passed, both she and Reynold had failed completely. The breathing method was like an appetizer for Jamie, but for them it was like a disgusting burger, difficult to swallow. Just when both were disappointed, thinking Jamie wouldn't take them on, Jamie's tone shifted. "I'm not joking anymore. This test was mainly to see your willpower. As disciples, you've passed." Looking at the two who were incredibly excited, Jamie took out the instructor's hat that Orlando had given him back then. "Hee, I've become a teacher too." Learning the full body breathing method was extremely taxing on both physical strength and energy. After 24 hours without food or drink, Mel and the others had long since collapsed from exhaustion. That night, they slept directly on Jamie's bed. In the morning, Jamie prepared gifts for them both, matching magic necklaces, which were also tokens of being Jamie's disciples. Coming to the classroom, Mel couldn't wait to show off, which attracted the attention of many students. Her seatmate Finn also showed envious expression. Mel noticed his complexion was off and asked if he felt unwell. Finn indicated that it was just because he'd been drinking too much Apophis recently, causing his core to enlarge and his body to feel somewhat fatigued. Mel looked puzzled. How could there possibly be a nutrient solution in the world that makes cores larger? She advised him not to continue drinking it. Who would have thought that upon hearing this, Finn's expression changed immediately. After slamming the desk, he left the classroom alone. His behavior made Mel feel strange. What's wrong with Finn? Finn, who had left the classroom, came alone to the corridor. Long-term use of Apophis had begun making his emotions increasingly irritable. Just then, Teacher Sophia suddenly approached. On the surface, she was concerned about what had happened to him, but in her heart, she was calculating whether Apophis's side effects were appearing ahead of schedule. That's right. The popularity of this harmful potion wasn't just the demon's doing. Many teachers at the school were also involved. She handed Finn a bottle of green potion, indicating that the teachers were conducting research classes about Apophis's possibilities in the laboratory, and she hoped he could bring his friends to attend the class together. Watching Finn leave, Sophia revealed a sinister expression. "Looks like this experimental subject is about to collapse. If student deaths occur, the headmaster will personally investigate. It seems we need to accelerate the experiment before that happens." Meanwhile, a mysterious man was conducting experiments on mice. Damn it, Apophis's side effects still haven't been eliminated. Just then, Sophia walked in with a dark expression. "Kenya, how's your experiment going?" "The doctor and I are still researching, but we haven't made much progress." At this moment, the crystal ball on the desk made a sound. "Don't worry, more refined raw material will be sent over soon. Help me pass this to the doctor. This is personally sent from the demon side. I'm waiting for your good news." Hearing this, Sophia said no more. She told Kenya to quickly bring the experimental subject Mel over. Kenya looked troubled. He indicated that Mel had outstanding perception abilities, which was why he hadn't acted rashly. Sophia snorted coldly. "You wouldn't want to ruin the greater good for personal feelings, would you? You should first see your own situation clearly. Remember my words. Don't delay any longer." The reason Sophia told Finn about the Apophis professional class was to get him to bring Mel over. The straightforward Finn indeed didn't disappoint, and the next day he dragged Mel to the research lab. At the same time, Siegfried also discovered the Apophis matter. He called Jamie to his office, indicating that recently he discovered many students without talent had greatly increased magical power after drinking this potion. And most strangely, this group of students had all been absent from class simultaneously today. He didn't want to alert them, so he wanted Jamie to help investigate first. But just then, the necklace on Jamie's chest suddenly emitted a bright light. Jamie silently cursed. Previously, he had infused magic into Reynold and Mel's necklaces. Whenever either was in danger, he would receive a signal. On the other side, Sophia also revealed her fangs. Having finally lured Mel out today no matter what, she had to turn him into her experimental subject. Just as Apophis was about to be poured into Mel's mouth, a loud shout suddenly rang out. The person who came wasn't Jamie, but Kenya. At the crucial moment, Kenya's conscience awakened, and he didn't want to continue being the demon's lackey. Sophia wasn't his match. He was confident he could rescue both children. Just then, a sword beam struck out fiercely. Kenya was hit on the spot. The one who attacked was none other than the manager responsible for selling Apophis Ashtar. It turned out that before coming, Sophia had sensed something abnormal about Kenya, so she contacted Ashtar in advance to prevent any accidents. Ashtar's appearance brought the situation under control. Just as Sophia was about to continue pouring the potion into Mel's body, Jamie's cold voice echoed in the room. "You dare touch my disciple. I assume you're prepared to die." One spell instantly knocked Sophia's underwear out. Seeing this, Ashtar stepped forward to help. "Sophia, you were actually defeated by a little brat. That's too weak," Jamie sneered. "You dare call me a little brat? Since that's the case, let my servant deal with you." The undead gate opened. Little guy, who hadn't been seen for a long time, charged out with a whoosh. After this period of nourishment in the undead world, his strength had greatly improved. Dealing with third-rate trash like Ashtar was more than sufficient. On the other side, Sophia staggered to her feet. Jamie's appearance had caused all her plans to collapse. She furiously launched an attack against him. Looking at Sophia charging toward him, Jamie let out a cold laugh. "With your level of strength, you dare attack me?" Jamie's single glance made her involuntarily kneel down. "You just stay like that. When I open my eyes again, I'll have one more servant," while releasing dark magic. Jamie didn't forget to tell little guy to show mercy. After all, who would refuse a useful slave? The controlled Sophia revealed the truth of the matter. Her real name was Mary, and she was an officer of Trinus. Trinus was an organization pursuing human equality. Apophis could allow people without magical talent to increase their magical power. She received orders to infiltrate the school to find experimental subjects. Moreover, they had now allied with the Grudge Demon clan. To withstand the potion's side effects, one needed to be at least master level. Jamie frowned slightly. After tens of thousands of years, this was the first time he'd heard of the Grudge Demon King. Could such small fry be worthy of being called king? Could this matter be related to Zenis? Jamie had her reveal all personnel involved in this matter. Mary said with vacant eyes, "So far, all suppliers have died by Ashtar's hand. Kenya is their researcher. Above that, their leader is the doctor, specifically responsible for drug research. All orders are issued by the teacher, who only contacts us through crystal balls. None of the lower-level people have seen the teacher's true face." Looking at the crystal ball handed over, Jamie thought to himself that it was indeed related to high-level figures in the magic world. Even the crystal ball used for contact had anti-tracking effects. He had Mary withdraw for now, saying he'd find her if needed later. Next, he should go interrogate Kenya. Chains bound him, and Jamie indicated that before he got rough, it would be best to confess everything. He questioned who the doctor was. Kenya wanted to speak, but something seemed to lock his throat. He couldn't say the doctor's name at all. Jamie's eyes turned cold. "It's not prohibition, so you don't want to talk. Since that's the case, let me crack open your skull." His palm pressed against Kenya's forehead. But the next second, Jamie was shocked by what he saw. Kenya, who served as the school's magic instructor, was actually an artificial human. Looking at the memory card removed from Kenya's skull, Jamie suddenly understood. So the third elder is the person in charge of this damned project. I didn't expect him to install chips in his own creations. After destroying the memory card, Jamie didn't continue to kill Kenya. He indicated that from now on he would no longer be the third elder's lackey. This freedom was his reward for saving his disciple. Meanwhile, in the third elder's room, he was angrily pounding the table. When the chip in Kenya's body was destroyed, he sensed it, and until now, he hadn't contacted Mary or Ashtar. It seemed his plan to become king in the magic world had encountered problems. He looked at the apophis on the table, and suddenly a crazy idea formed in his mind. Although it was only a semi-finished product, there was no time now. No one could stop him from becoming king in the magic world. On the other side, Jamie found Siegfried and told him everything that had just happened. Currently in the magic world besides him, there was no one he trusted. The third elder, being the mastermind behind everything, was now confirmed. The Equality faction's ideology was very similar to Apophis, so they couldn't be trusted either. Although Linmore was trustworthy, demons were best at disguise, so Jamie still couldn't let his guard down. So for the upcoming battle, he could only work with Siegfried. After the two discussed for a while, Jamie left first. On his way back, he encountered Instructor Gablin. Recalling the suspicious things about her earlier, Jamie asked a few probing questions. Sure enough, he discovered his identity. Gablin was the teacher that Mary had mentioned. Seeing his identity exposed, Gablin stopped pretending. But what Jamie hadn't expected was that she was actually a demon contractor. Gablin cast spatial isolation magic, preparing to eliminate the troublesome brat. Just then, a voice suddenly rang out. "Gablin, how exactly are you handling things?" Hearing this, Jamie immediately launched an attack. "I didn't expect you to show yourself so quickly." The third elder released Thousand Seas Step. Jamie's target was very clear. First cut down Gablin, then kill the third elder. But just then, the third elder suddenly laughed excitedly. Haha, he took the bait. The next second, countless threads tightly bound Jamie. The third elder said mockingly, "You geniuses always like to be careless, not knowing that." Before he could finish, the ceiling suddenly exploded. Siegfried descended from above. However, seeing him, the third elder laughed even more heartily. "Since you're here, let's deal with you together." As soon as Siegfried appeared, he was trapped by an unknown seal. He tried to break free, but it was useless. The third elder said mockingly, "Stop struggling. This is a sealing technique I worked hard to find. Even the first and second elders can't break free." Siegfried looked shocked. Before he could understand what was happening, Gablin activated the seal and imprisoned him. Jamie laughed lightly. "Siegfried will come out soon. You old fools wouldn't fail to think of even this, would you? You little brat, still being stubborn when death is at your door. I think you're asking for it." That said, the third elder didn't dare truly kill Jamie, because the Wilton and Bell families behind him were not to be trifled with. Once they came knocking, it would definitely affect their plans. Gablin suggested erasing his memory first, but just as she was about to act, Jamie suddenly started laughing. "Hee, are you sure the isolation magic has been properly set up?" Gablin's heart jumped, but the next second, her body exploded in front of Jamie. That's right, what Jamie had just used was Leviathan's power. She could only blame herself for getting too close to him. Looking at the dark magical power on Jamie's body, the third elder looked shocked. "You're actually a dark mage?" Jamie's eyes turned cold. "You know too much." The third elder launched magic in terror. Jamie didn't even dodge, letting the opponent's magic hit his body. "You can't even touch my body, yet you want to kill me. Today I'll let you see what a magic sword truly is." Fusing dark magic with the Wilton family's swordsmanship, Jamie's sword techniques were bold and powerful. With just one move, the third elder was spitting blood. Jamie didn't hesitate and immediately released Leviathan, preparing to turn him into his own nourishment. But just then, an explosion sounded from behind Jamie. The third elder injected the semi-finished Apophis into his body. His muscles bulged all over, and his realm also rose by 1 level. Jamie looked mocking. "No matter how much medicine you take, it's useless. In my eyes, you're just trash. Come out, my soldiers." The undead gate opened behind him, and countless skeletons charged out. At the same time, Gaebelin, who had been nearly blown to pieces, secretly escaped from the isolation space. As a demon contractor, the human flesh was just his disguise. Just as she came out, a teacher happened to pass by. Gaebelin immediately pounced on him without hesitation. "Damn, brat, you're actually a dark mage. Once I recover my body, I'll definitely turn you into raw material." Just as Gaebelin completed her body absorption, a magic spell suddenly pierced through her chest. Looking back, it was the artificial human Kenya. Jamie opened the undead gate. Countless skeletons swarmed forward, but this time, they were no longer mindless like in his previous life, but divided into different unit types, cooperating with each other. What Jamie hadn't expected was that this was Yellow's doing. It turned out that in the undead space, Yellow had communicated with Nebro. A well-trained army could completely achieve a 10-to-1 ratio. Jamie's face darkened. Damn, how come the undead I summon after resurrection all have their own ideas? Jamie had Yellow lead the skeleton soldiers back first. The demonized third elder had greatly increased in strength. Using skeleton soldiers against him was indeed inefficient. Seeing Jamie recall his soldiers, the third elder thought he was afraid. But the next second, Jamie raised the magic sword in his hand. Dark magic with annihilation properties fused onto the sword blade. Jamie's form danced like lightning, quickly killing his way to the third elder. The sword beam wrapped in dark magical power slashed fiercely at his opponent. The entire classroom echoed with the third elder's screams. In the critical moment, the third elder didn't hesitate to burn his own life to resist. Jamie looked at him mockingly. "You're quite good at struggling, but I'll eliminate you soon." The exquisite coordination of the void-cutting sword and Leviathan's devouring power. Jamie struck out fiercely with his sword. But just then, a familiar memory surged into his mind. It was the magic Jamie had used 60,000 years ago when confronting the 12 gods. That's right, the strike Jamie had just fused awakened some memory fragments in him. He had always thought Leviathan only had devouring power. In fact, 60,000 years ago, Leviathan's true source was converting the opponent's power for his own use. Feeling his magical power draining away, the third elder looked puzzled. "Why is my magic appearing on your sword? What did you do?" "Heh. Thanks to you, I've broken through another barrier. Now disappear." The sword wrapped in powerful magical force split the third elder's body. On the other side, Kenya, whose conscience had awakened, ambushed Gaebelin. But as a demon contractor, she had already reached demon knight level. Kenya, being an artificial human, was only a 5th-tier mage. Even with the successful ambush, he was no match for Gaebelin. Just as he lost an arm and fell into despair, a familiar voice rang in his mind. How could there be a voice in Gaebelin's shadow? Could there be a seal there? That's right, the one transmitting the message was Siegfried. Kenya made a desperate gamble, gathering magical power in his fist and striking toward Gaebelin's shadow. Seeing this, Gaebelin immediately panicked, frantically casting magic at him, trying to stop him. But Kenya had already resolved to die. Even though his body was pierced, he had to complete his magic circle. As an explosion rang out, Siegfried's cold voice emerged. "Thank you for your hard work, Instructor Kenya. Leave the rest of the battle to me." Although he had eliminated the third elder, Jamie didn't relax his vigilance. The demonic aura in the school hadn't dissipated yet, which meant Gaebelin was still alive. Just then, Count Simon suddenly arrived. It turned out that when demonic aura appeared at the school, Reynold went to look for Jamie and found he wasn't in the classroom. He saw the necklace glowing and thought something had happened to him, so he brought his father. However, what shocked Simon more was that he actually sensed 7th-tier mage aura from Jamie. Jamie didn't know how to explain, and simply said he had just broken through. Then he told him about the demon invasion of the school. Just as the two were about to search for Gaebelin, a surge of demonic aura rising to the sky caught their attention. It turned out that earlier, Siegfried had broken Gaebelin's seal with Kenya's help. As someone infinitely close to an 8th-tier mage, killing Gaebelin was effortless for him. However, his earlier frustration made him want to torture him, so he trapped Gaebelin in his own seal. Unexpectedly, he broke through the seal and underwent a final transformation. Jamie and the others hurried over. At this moment, Siegfried was using spatial magic to contain her. Jamie knew they couldn't waste time now, and immediately released fire magic. However, as soon as the flames were released, Count Simon extended his finger. "Don't forget that fire is my specialty." That's right, Count Simon's magical subjective was Flame Festival. He possessed the power to command fire, which was why he was called Red Lotus. But what surprised Jamie was that just now, He had easily taken away the flames he created, and even gained control over them. He was indeed worthy of being the 8th elder of the magic world. Red Lotus flames struck the opponent. The power was so strong that even Jamie was somewhat surprised. After the flames dispersed, Count Simon confidently turned and walked away. Jamie was somewhat puzzled. "Aren't you going to confirm the corpse?" Simon spoke calmly. "Are you questioning my magic? Unless it's an Earl-level demon, it's impossible to survive." At this moment, that charred corpse only had faint breath remaining. He was unwilling to accept such an ending. If given just a little more time, he could obtain the power granted by the Demon King. Just as he was about to despairingly end this life, a voice rang in his mind. "You did well. If you're going to die, give your body to me. I'll kill them all for you." Just then, a voice suddenly rang out. Jamie's heart jumped, and he turned to look. 3 blood beams suddenly shot toward him. Jamie quickly dodged, pulling away from them. When he could clearly see the figure, Jamie was also shocked. The opponent claimed to be Demon Marquis Belus from the demon world, a half-dragon, half-demon with dragon and demon bloodlines. Jamie frowned. Even though it was only half-dragon status, this was enough to make Simon and Siegfried wary. It seemed he needed to strike first. Jamie's form was like lightning as he quickly launched an attack. However, after one exchange, even with Jamie using the omnipotent gem to reduce the opponent's attack to 0, he was still knocked flying. Earl-level demons were indeed not to be underestimated. It seemed he needed to use dark magical power. He spoke calmly to Simon and the others. "Whatever you see in a moment, you must keep it secret from me." With that, dark magical power spread over Jamie's body. This scene completely shattered Simon and the others' worldviews. Jamie, without any reservations, charged forward. Against Earl-level demons, if he didn't use his full strength in this battle, the one who would die would be him and the 2 behind him. Explosions continuously rang out at the scene. Jamie fought more fiercely as the battle progressed. Belus became more excited as he fought. The collision between the 2 was like thunder meeting wildfire. Belus released even stronger magical power. Jamie's strength made him feel infinitely excited. But just then, Simon and Siegfried, who had recovered, made their move. The assistance of 2 7th-tier mages bought Jamie time. He fused dark magical power into the void-cutting sword. The sword, wrapped in powerful magical force, struck toward the trapped Belus. Jamie knew this strike couldn't completely eliminate the opponent, so he had Siegfried cast spatial magic to isolate him, and told them to quickly find other reinforcements, because he knew that with just the 3 of them they couldn't defeat an Earl-level demon. Unless a Sword Saint intervened, the magic world would be completely annihilated. Although Simon didn't know how Jamie had deduced this, there was no better option at the moment, so he had Siegfried comply. Spatial magic enveloped the 3 people, and 1 demon dragon. At this moment, Belus had completely lost patience. He was going to use the demon dragon's power to completely obliterate the 3. Towering demonic aura condensed into a laser beam shooting toward the 3. Jamie calmly chanted dark magic. Although Simon and Siegfried didn't know what would happen next, they both continued casting magic to assist Jamie. Belus's attack was like a nuclear bomb, striking directly at the isolation net created by the 3. Jamie released dark magic, Chaos Ocean. The surrounding space was completely isolated by dark magical power. Seeing this scene, Belus was incredibly shocked. "How do you know this kind of dark magical power?" However, before his question could be answered, the Demon King's aura was forcibly infused into his body. "Please don't, my master. Forced descent will be discovered by the 12 gods." That said, the descent didn't stop. The next second, a demon clad in armor occupied Belus's body. The true Demon King had descended. At this moment, Jamie was incredibly shocked. If it were outside, he wouldn't doubt it at all, but now he and the opponent were in the space of his Chaos Ocean. This was a unique space condensed with his pure, dark magical power. Even if the 12 gods descended, they couldn't invade it. Yet the opponent had descended as if entering an uninhabited realm. But what made him even more baffled was that as soon as the opponent opened his mouth, he asked how he had learned this kind of magic. The Demon King's descent undoubtedly broke the balance of causality. If they descended, the 12 gods could do the same. Moreover, there was the goddess Paro behind him. They couldn't possibly not notice. But why had there been no reaction until now? At this moment, the Demon King suddenly stared at Jamie, issuing a soul interrogation. "Where did you get that dark magical power? Who exactly are you?" The Demon King's voice carried bewitching power, but in just an instant, Jamie broke free. Damn it, the continent's foremost dark mage nearly fell for his trick. What exactly is this Demon King's background? Seeing that Jamie wasn't affected by his control, the Demon King also felt somewhat shocked. He questioned Jamie again about who he was and why he dared to look directly into his eyes. Jamie naturally wouldn't answer. His contemptuous attitude completely enraged the opponent. The Demon King pointed his finger at Jamie. The next second, an incredibly painful sensation spread throughout his body. Jamie's eyes turned cold. "Damn it, you hurt me!" The purple light emanating from Jamie's eyes left the Demon King utterly shocked. Someone had once told him that through chance encounters, ordinary people might obtain dark magical power, but purple power could only be acquired through his personal bestowal. He questioned what was going on with Jamie's eyes. However, at this moment, Jamie was even more shocked than him. because the magical power the Demon King had released against him was also dark magical power. I should be the one asking questions. Why would a Demon King use dark magical power? Upon hearing this, the Demon King withdrew his magical power. He also threw down his helmet. From now on, you'd better explain everything to me clearly, or I'll definitely send you to hell. Seeing the opponent's appearance, Jamie was completely stunned. Is that you, Trakenia? That's right, 60,000 years ago, when Trakenia was dying, he had Jamie turn him into an undead, specifically to continue fighting the 12 gods alongside him. Jamie just hadn't expected that after 60,000 years. The opponent had actually become the king of the demon world. Upon hearing Jamie call out his name, Trakenia immediately lost his composure. Who exactly are you? Only my master knew this name. If your answer doesn't satisfy me, I'll definitely... Before Trakenia could finish, Jamie interrupted him. I am Diablo. I'm sorry I'm late. Upon hearing this, the Demon King immediately knelt down. Master, is it really you? The two then began to chat. Jamie gave a general account of his resurrection, while also asking why the other had become the Demon King. Regarding his experiences over these 60,000 years, Trakenia didn't know how to begin. He simply projected his memories for Jamie to see. On the eve of the War of the Gods 60,000 years ago, to avoid implicating his subordinates, Jamie had dismissed them all before the Great Battle. But Trakenia was an extremely loyal yet rebellious fellow. He wouldn't listen to Jamie's orders and insisted on confronting the 12 gods together with him. Having no choice, Jamie released dark magic and banished him to a different dimension. However, he hadn't expected that his casually cast teleportation magic would send the other to the demon world. Initially, Trakenia was extremely dejected, thinking Jamie looked down on his strength and had abandoned him. But later, when he could no longer sense Jamie's presence, he understood that the other had been protecting him. For revenge. He began training frantically in the demon world. From initially being mocked by other demon kings, to later becoming an earl, then a demon king, Trakenia had established his foothold in the demon world through strength. He gave himself the title of Grudge Demon King, intending to return to the human world to kill the 12 gods and avenge his master. Until recent years, he received news that the 12 gods had internal strife and had split into several factions. He felt the time was right and began searching for ways to return. Apophis was what he had developed. Although the process was inhumane, for the sake of revenge, he could no longer care about such things. This led to the subsequent events. Listening to the other's explanation, Jamie fell into contemplation. In the end, he was the root cause of all this. If he hadn't teleported the other to another dimension back then, none of this would have happened. However, Trakenia's persistence still moved him greatly. He told the Trakenia that his current body wasn't strong enough yet. Although he could quickly recover to his previous power, it wasn't sufficient to eliminate the 12 gods. He had the other return to the demon world first. When the time came, he would contact him, and at that moment would be the time for the final battle with the 12 gods.